What's up, everybody? It's Critical. I'm on a train to Pennsylvania right now. It's a 23-hour train, and I'm sorry if it gets really loud and sounds like we're running over landmines. That's just how trains sound for people who've never been on one. It also rocks back and forth a lot like I'm riding a dinghy that's being pushed by the strong wake of a giant cruise ship. It's basically just feeling like a roller coaster that gets me from point A to point B, but doesn't go in a complete circle like a roller coaster. So let's get down to business. I wanted to tell a story since there's nothing else for me to do on this 23-hour trip. And it's a story that just happened to me recently. So every now and then there'll be a strong scent of shit because someone will shit their pants in one of the adjacent rooms and just open the door and just let it all waft through the air and contaminate the atmosphere. And it's truly just a brutal aroma of foul mephitis and anthrax release, some fucking nerve gas. And I decided, I wanted to join that cool kids club too. Well, I didn't fucking decide to, my body just did because I really had to take a shit. So, doing what nature is telling me to do, I went to go take a shit in the train bathroom. And I didn't expect it to be as difficult as it was. I've shit in planes before. There's few places I haven't shit. I'm kind of a shitting veteran. I've done it pretty much everywhere imaginable, but never on a train. This was my first time. This was popping my cherry. So I get in there, and it's a bumpy ride. We're hitting some hard land turbulence here. Now, doing what any good man would do in this situation, I started gently laying toilet paper down onto the toilet seat, because I'm not a fucking barbarian. I'm not just gonna raw dog ass cheek onto the public toilet seat. That's just yucky. So I'm preparing my shitting sanctuary for business, and it's a bumpy ride. I'm really gonna have to brace myself here. I was grabbing the sides of the cubicle and bracing for impact, but my nutsack wasn't quite ready. It was dangling down and just slapping the inside of the toilet bowl, and I'm a big hypochondriac, so I'm worried I've already contracted syphilis from this event. And I was just brutalizing my ball sack. My nuts weren't feeling the good vibe. And then I decided, it's not going to get any better. I'm just going to start shitting. I was going to release my cargo. And this was a mistake, because right when I decided to do this, we started hitting some really, really hard bumps. And I'm talking some really hard shit. Like, I had to put both legs up onto the wall. Like, it was like I was climbing the American Ninja Warrior obstacle course with the way I've contorted my body. It was like a fucking circus act. And I was just rocking back and forth. I felt like Humpty Dumpty. I was about to fall down any minute and just start splattering shit everywhere. I mean, it wasn't diarrhea or anything. I could have just closed my sphincter, but for the sake of portraying the image, I could have tumbled over, and it wouldn't have been good. So I was just sitting there. I would just shit in bursts whenever it was a little bit steadier, whenever the sea wasn't quite throwing me off the fucking boat here. And, I tried to tame that mechanical bull. It wasn't going so well. Nutsack wasn't feeling great. And I'd finally finished emptying my bowels and then became a new boss. The final boss of shitting on a train was wiping. I was so worried with the bumps that I was just going to accidentally finger my asshole really hard or just even go elbow deep up there, just slide all the way up with the whole fist. It was a truly high-risk, low-reward maneuver. But I did it. Luckily, I didn't puncture my rectum or blast my anus open, tear it or anything. I cleaned it, and So that's a story about how I successfully shit on a train, but it wasn't an easy task. To anyone out there who has successfully managed to shit on a train, I think you know that struggle. A story I believe most can relate to if you've ever been on an extremely long train. Peeing wasn't too difficult because I've got great accuracy when I urinate, so that wasn't an issue when I had to do that, but shitting, that was a whole different beast. And hopefully the train noise in the background wasn't too loud. See ya. It's been a little while since I've told the story, so go ahead and hop on my lap here by the fireplace and I'll tell you a tale. As is common with most of my stories I've told on the channel, this takes place during the period of my life where I thought it was cool to be a mysterious anime character. This was like my early years of college. As you can probably imagine, my ability to socialize during this time was absolutely pathetic. Having a conversation with a magic 8-ball would have been more fun and engaging than talking to me back then. Those poor souls that talked to me back then probably instantly regretted it, because having a conversation with old Charlie was like talking to Alexa if she was overdosing on Xanax. It was rough. Why is this important though? Because this is setting the stage for one story I haven't told yet. I've told so many stories when it comes to all of the fucking weird and creepy interactions I've had with women. All my fault, of course, just because I was so unbelievably socially inept. Like, it's hard to put into words how bad I was at recognizing social cues and how to be, like, acceptable in society. I fucking bought one of those fake cigarettes one time. You know that shit that kids would buy from Spencer's when they were like 12? I bought one of those things when I was 18 because I thought it looked cool and I hated real cigarettes. You know how fucking sad that is? I'm surprised I didn't buy one of those colorful propeller hats and started spinning it to try and look cool or something. It was rough. So what I'm saying is, Socially, I was the worst thing you could fucking imagine, but it didn't stop me from trying to have conversations with women. I tried to fake confidence, fake it to make it, and all of that shit, and today's story will be in that ballpark. So, this story takes place in a location where all good social interactions take place, at GameStop. So let me take you back to the past when my social interactions sucked ass. This is GameStop 2012, 2011, somewhere in that ballpark. I was, of course, Virgin Boy Charlie, if you can even believe that. Some say I lost my virginity before my dad, but the truth is, I was actually a virgin, embarrassingly enough. And I was doing what all virgins did, using Reddit for some advice. And Reddit is one of the worst places when it comes to seduction and just general advice when it comes to human interaction, because it's the blind leading the blind. The people giving that advice, they have likely never talked to a human being before. They're probably getting all of their social cues the same place I was. Fucking anime. So I was using anime and r slash relationship or something. I don't remember what subreddit. And these two things were clashing, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take both of these, do like a little unholy fusion dance, and become this ultra Chad, the product of great advice and great animation. And I was going to channel this and show that, I'm becoming more confident in myself by flirting with girls in public. And I chose my first rodeo to be at GameStop. Before going to GameStop, I had decided that I was going to march into GameStop, right up to the counter to the girl that worked there and call her beautiful right to her face. I was going to look her in the eyes. I was going to say, ma'am, you are fucking beautiful. You are gorgeous. I don't know what I expected to happen next because I didn't have a follow-up. Maybe I was fantasizing like one of those dream scenes where all of a sudden, like an anime, the girl blushes and then she calls out her 3 twin sisters or something. And they all fall in love with me. I don't know. But that was my game plan. And I was hyping myself up. I was like a football player in the locker room before the championship game, headbutting lockers. I put on a necklace, and I never wear a necklace. I found like this old gold necklace from probably when I was a kid, but my neck is still the same size as a kid's, so it still fit. I spiked my hair up real well, fucking drowned it in gel, and I mean drowned it in gel. I looked like a freshly born baby covered in amniotic fluid up there, and I felt like $1,000,000. Today was the day I was going to say to a girl, she is beautiful. So I hop into my Batmobile and I cruise on over to GameStop. I get to the door, I open it, and it's like everything else just melted around me. Time froze, and there she was, behind the desk, the only female employee at this particular GameStop, and she looked miserable. Probably because she's working at a fucking GameStop, but I was gonna make her day better by being the only man in GameStop history with the confidence to say that she was beautiful. I'm sure she doesn't hear that every day from other socially inept fucking slime balls. So I was going to be the first, the trendsetter. Truly a pioneer. So I meandered around a little bit, just making sure I was building up enough confidence, going over the lines in my head. The line I was going to use was when she was done ringing me up, I was going to say, "Thank you, beautiful," and then wait to see her response, see what she says to this, hoping that she wouldn't call the police or have security come tackle me. So, I finally pick out a game, some used game I'm sure, because I was big into used games for a long time. I slam that shit on the counter because I'm ready. She starts by asking me a couple questions. Am I a member of GameStop Power Plus Ultra program? Well, no, I'm not. She's going off script. I wasn't accounting for this. It's freeform now. The dialogue has been all fucked up. I'm getting a little jumbled in my head. I'm getting nervous. I wasn't expecting to be interrogated by her today. I'm not a member of this GameStop program. Would I like to be? Well, shit, would it help my chances with you? I don't know. I'm going through all kinds of scenarios in my head. It's like a visual novel. There's a bunch of different branching paths I could choose from. I'm panicking. I'm breaking down a bit. My composure is starting to falter. There's sweat on my brow and a tickle in my sack. I was not prepared for this at all. She then asked me, do I want my receipt? Another question I wasn't anticipating. Do I say, "Thank you, beautiful"? Now, no, that wouldn't make sense because she asked me a question. I can't just respond with I have to answer the question. Everything's all falling apart at once. It's like Salvador Dali's painting where the clocks are melting. I'm running out of time. I don't know when to say this line. And no, I don't really want this receipt. What am I going to do? Wipe my ass with it? I paid $3 for some garbage used game. I tell her, no, thank you. You keep the receipt. And that's when she says it. A sentence that could dampen the pants of any man, even the strongest men. She says, "Thank you for shopping at GameStop." I freeze. I don't know how to respond. I stand there for what feels like hours, looking at the ground, wondering, is now the time? And then I decide I muster the courage within myself, the strength to go forward. I say, "Thank you, beautiful." I'm still looking at the ground when I say this, because I haven't earned the right to look my GameStop queen in the eyes yet. And then I do what any sane man would do. I ran away. I fucking jogged away. Before she could even like actually respond, I started jogging away with the bag in my hand like I just stole the game from GameStop. But I did hear her say, "Oh." I know for a fact she said "oh" as I turned my back to run away. I ran all the way to my car, hearing that "oh" in my head the entire way there, got in, slammed the door, and I thought to myself, Charlie, you did it. We just made that employee extremely uncomfortable, and man, do I feel like shit about it. It was a good lesson to learn. That was probably already like the 5th or 6th time that lady had been hit on that day by fucking weirdos like me. She probably just up and quit that day. That was probably the last straw right there. I don't know, because I never went back. I was just so goddamn embarrassed about this whole thing, but I do imagine she quit that day. But yeah, I tell you this story in the hopes that people will learn from it. Don't make the same mistakes I did. Don't be a fucking weirdo, and don't, yeah, that's basically it, really. That's about it. So yeah. Anime is a word that inspires confusion, fear, and boners. On the surface, it's just another form of entertainment, but what it actually is a weapon. And like all weapons, there's the potential for misuse. This is the story of how I misused anime in my first year of college, and potentially led the entire student body to believe that I was some type of fucking lunatic who was one bad Naruto episode away from crashing his car into the side of the on-campus gym. It all started in high school. I was pretty reclusive, I didn't go out much, but I did watch a lot of anime, and it taught me 2 very important lessons. The first being, the power of friendship is the strongest force in the universe that not even God himself can compete with. Friendship probably led to the Big Bang creating our fucking universe. The second lesson being, the mysterious guy is always the coolest guy that big-titted girls want to fuck, and smaller-titted girls want to fuck. And I really took that lesson to heart, and I super shouldn't have. Absolutely not. But I did. And what happened is, as I graduated high school, I realized that college was my chance to really reinvent myself and change what people think about me, my perception, because no one knows about me. In high school, everyone knew me because I went to a small school, so I couldn't exactly just kick down the door one day sporting a leather jacket and riding a Harley Davidson and have everyone think I was super cool all of a sudden. They'd probably just think I was possessed by the spirit of a 40-year-old father going through his midlife crisis. But in college, nobody knew me, so I could be anything I wanted to be. And man, I wanted to be the anime mysterious guy. And holy shit did it lead to a very embarrassing and lonely first year of my college. So my college anime opened up with an incredible season opener, just a beautiful introduction. On move-in day, the literal first time setting foot in college soil, being an adult, a full-grown, full-hairy, penised adult on a college campus. On move-in day, I had my dad helping me. And going to my dorm, moving in the elevator, there was a girl and her father who were moving in. They're on the same floor, and my dad was talking to her dad and her a little bit. I didn't say a word. I was too cool to say a word, and my dad tried to throw me into the conversation. So he asked me a real softball question that even a toddler could fumble his way through. I don't remember exactly what he asked me, but it was something like, "Oh, are you excited to move into this dorm, Charlie?" And I'll never forget my response, because I remember this verbatim. I said, "You know I can't talk about that, Dad." I don't know why I said that. I guess in my head I thought that she would think that was super fucking dope, like I was some type of super secret agent that can't talk about his opinions. But really it just came across like, wow, this is a guy that I should be afraid of. But at the time, it didn't register with me like that was a weird thing to say. I went through the rest of that day being really proud of that, like, damn, fucking nailed it in the elevator. College is gonna be great. I just expected, like, if we saw each other in the hallway, she'd just be overcome with ecstasy and just charge me like, "Charlie's son," and then give me a smooch on my smoochers. But in reality, as you can imagine, that never happened. And that was really just setting the tone for the rest of that entire year for me. I wanted to, and luckily Kaya talked me out of it, I wanted to put an Xbox disc of Psychonauts around a chain on my neck, so that way people would know that I like Psychonauts. It's not exactly mysterious because I'm kind of beating you on the urethra with, I like this, I'm clearly wearing it. But I was like, this is so different. This is totally what an anime guy would do, like the mysterious guy. Another thing that I wanted to do, and Kaya again talked me out of it, he really saved me from having an even more catastrophic freshman year of college, is I wanted to carry around a deck of cards and do magic tricks at house parties or just around campus to really make people be like, damn, that was cool. I need that guy's number. Who was that guy? That guy's super cool. Let's invite the magic deck guy back, the magic card trick guy. That super awesome and fun guy. I didn't end up doing that, but I did used to do some magic tricks at house parties, which is still embarrassing, but the cards were already there. I didn't bring them or like come up to people, hey, you want to see a fucking magic trick? They were at least there. It made sense at the time. But bringing them around like a mysterious guy, keeping them in like a Ziploc bag, there was no coming back from that. If I went down that destructive path, I'd probably be behind bars right now just from scaring the general populace. Like, what is this guy up to with this deck of cards? This is a maniac. Get him off the streets, this menace. But now let's talk about the things that the social savior Kaya wasn't able to prevent me from doing. One of the biggest ones that I can remember is I used to go to clubs because I obviously wasn't really getting invited to house parties, because who's going to want to invite the guy who doesn't talk because he thinks it's cool not to? Like, I would blatantly just avoid answering questions in class. If I got called on, I'd just blow it off like, oh yeah. I wouldn't even give like a yes or a no. I wouldn't be like no, I don't know the answer. I wouldn't even give the answer. I'd just be like, oh yeah. Just like fucking mumble it out like I was fucking overdosing on Xanax. So obviously no one was going to come out of their way to invite me to a house party. No one got to know me my freshman year. So I would go to clubs by myself. And one time, it was New Year's, and I had these light up New Year's glasses. And they were some pretty fucking cool glasses, not going to lie. And I was wearing them around my neck because they were so bright I couldn't really see. I was basically just flashbanging myself when I was wearing them normally with the lights going on and shit. So I had them around my neck. And this girl came up to me and started talking to me about them. And instead of like answering any of your questions, I was playing it the same way I did everything else. I just didn't say a word. She said something about my glasses, but she fucked up and called them a necklace. She said something like, I like your necklace. That's a cool necklace. They're glasses. How dare you fuck that up? But anyway, I just disregarded it and I stared at her blankly. Like a fucking robot whose programming just malfunctioned, or I just fell asleep standing up. But she kept trying to get me to talk to her, get me to open up. That goddamn hero, that trooper, she just kept really trying to pry me open, but it just wasn't happening. Getting me to talk and not be mysterious in my freshman year of college would be like trying to open up a dumpster and not have a wave of shit hit your nostrils. But she kept trying. She pulled out her shirt saying, do you like my shirt? And it said something like, short girls know how to have fun, or something like that, or something to that extent. And I glanced at it, and then I immediately went back to staring at her without commenting on the shirt or even saying a word. I didn't make a noise. I didn't even make like a caveman grunt, like a Tim Allen. I didn't do anything. I didn't make a single audible noise. So I was basically just a fucking statue there. She tried again. She said something else about my necklace, and this time it must have just struck a chord, because I remember I pulled them off of my neck slowly and I put them on my eyes, and then I flicked them on the next setting, which was like this intense, glowing, like strobe light shit, like some blinding, banging strobe light shit. And then she walked away. I still didn't say anything because I just put them on my eyes and then turned that setting on and kept staring at her. So I don't blame her for walking away. And that was really when it hit me, like, you know, maybe being the mysterious weirdo isn't going to pay off. But I still committed to it. I still kept going past that. That was New Year's, and we still had another 5 or so months of me being an odd, weird, anime-inspired, mysterious loser. There's really no other big events that really stick out to me. Just a bunch of small stuff that I kept doing throughout the entirety of my freshman year. Like if it was raining and everyone was like, oh fuck, it's raining and I forgot my umbrella, I'm just gonna wait it out. I'd walk right by them, just kind of like wiggle my way through them, and then I'd just walk out in the rain like I didn't give a shit, like I didn't even know it was raining. Like I'd pull out my phone, much to the detriment of my phone, just be like, oh, rain? Too mysterious to feel rain. I really don't know why I ever thought walking out in the rain looking like some kind of dumb asshole would be cool or mysterious, because it doesn't fit either category. But that was another thing I'd partake in almost every time it rained. The only other big event that I can really think of, one that I still think about and it keeps me up at night and really haunts my boners to this day, is when I took an art therapy course towards the second semester of my freshman year. I don't remember exactly what it was. It wasn't art therapy, but it was something similar. It was just an art class basically where you express yourself. And I thought it would be amazingly mysterious and really get girls' panties super fucking wet, just sodden panties being tossed at me. Is every assignment I tried to make it as dark and bland as possible. So one of the assignments being, what do you think of your friends? You were supposed to do one about 12 friends. You make a drawing to represent each friend. And for mine, I did the same thing for all of them. It was a black box. I don't know why I don't know what at all was my thought process with that, but I just did 12 black boxes to represent all of my friends. And when I was supposed to present it, I gave them each a name, and I did name 12 friends. I'm kind of more acquaintances. I didn't really have any like super close friends or anything, but I did name 12 people that I knew and who also knew of my existence. And that just made me seem like I belonged in an insane asylum looking back on it. But at the time, I was like, oh, girls love the troubled artist, the mysterious troubled artist. This is beautiful. There's going to be tears in their eyes. I already know it. I'm going to get an A on this project. Spoiler alert, I didn't get an A because she thought I just blew it off and goofed on it, so I got a D because I at least turned something in. But even still, I drew 12 black boxes. That's some shit that you see in a horror movie, like when the weird kid's scribbling shit on paper in a black crayon, and then you find out that the kid's actually a demon. That's that kind of shit that I presented to the class, and there's no doubt in my mind those students walked away deeply disturbed and afraid of me from that moment on. So, that's how I spent the entire first year of my college experience, emulating the anime mysterious guy. It wasn't until I moved out of my dorm and in with a new group of guys who put the kibosh on that shit and taught me how to be social because they did not want to be living with some fucking weirdo that's trying to be an anime mysterious guy. So that's kind of that's how my first year of college went. The lesson to take away from this is don't emulate what you see on anime because it's just not gonna fucking work unless you have some like superpowers that you might like, some really fucking cool superpowers. You might be able to get away with being weirdly mysterious, but I didn't. The only superpower I had was being below average male height. But if you have some cool superpowered shit, maybe you can emulate anime to some extent and still be cool, but I couldn't. But I wouldn't recommend it to most people, the non-superpowered people out there. To the people that aren't X-Men, don't try and be an anime mysterious guy. Don't be weird. That's it. See ya. Occasionally during my live streams, people bring up Miami because I'm in Florida and everyone knows Miami, so they always want to know, have I been there? Do I like Miami? And I made it very clear that I have a very palpable disdain for that city, if you can even call it a city. I call it a scam. I almost just don't even believe in Miami. It's kind of like the fucking Tooth Fairy to me. If the Tooth Fairy was a huge asshole whose only purpose was to bite your nipples off while you were asleep, I really do hate Miami. So let's get really into the meat and semen of why I hate Miami. I've only been one time. It was my junior year of college, and my friends and I went for spring break. We were going to celebrate it there, just go fucking wild. Yeah, Miami Beach party. Oh, tits all over the place. Look at all that ass, and look at all these beers and alcohols. And that was the plan. But we severely underestimated just how expensive everything in Miami is. We knew it was going to be a bit pricier, but not even Jesus Christ himself could have convinced us it'd be as expensive as it turned out to be. There was only one thing in all of Miami we could afford, and that was the hotel, because we all pooled our money together to be able to afford that. Past that, we were left to die. The people in Miami wouldn't piss in your mouth if you were dying of thirst unless you had $1,000 to pay them for it. The prices there are out fucking rageous. We couldn't be left alone. We couldn't buy anything alone. We had to stay in a group and start budgeting our money. Hey man, look, I just ran out of soap and I need to get some at Walgreens. Can you spot me $50 so I can at least get halfway there and I'll cover the other 50? Because you can't afford anything. We couldn't buy a pack of almonds on our own without coming together as a group and budgeting that purchase. It's fucking insane how expensive everything there is. Let's go ahead and start from day one because it hit us immediately when we got there. We planned the trip for 4 days. We stayed all 4 days, but on the first day we knew we were in for a rude awakening. So day one we were already, ready to rock and roll, ready for partying. Hey, it's spring break. It's time to go nuts to butts. Let's fucking hit it and shit it. So we got a taxi, which was extremely expensive, got stuck in Miami traffic for an hour, and then made it to this area where all the bars are. I can't even remember what it's called, but there's a bar there that's like the Frankliner, or maybe like the Frankie Doolittle or something. I don't remember, but it's a big bar there, and we paid $20 to get in, which is huge for us because in Tampa, it's free entry if you're over 21, so paying $20 just to get in, that was a real slap to the urethra, but we did it anyway because spring break, baby, woo! Shirt over your head and everything, about ready to go wild. And we made the mistake of ordering shots right upon getting there. Shots of Fireball, because in Tampa, a shot of Fireball is $3, and I'll never forget what it is in Miami at the Frankie Muniz Hotel or whatever. $18. $18 for a shot of Fireball. Fireball is the shittiest alcohol you can get in a shot, and it was $18 there. It was insulting. So after taking that shot, needless to say, it was basically like swallowing all of our money at the same time. We were already running out of money just from our first bar visit and first round of drinks. If I wanted to take that shot glass and dunk it into their pool, I'd probably have to pay $10 for their chlorinated pool water with pee all in it. It's unreal, the prices there. But it wasn't all lost upon going to that bar because there was a homeless man, probably not actually homeless, but he dressed like a homeless man, and he was doing magic tricks, and we got a little private magic show from him. And it was all hat magic, so he'd like be doing cool shit with his hat. And his grand finale was he pulled out a baggie of cocaine from his hat. It was really fucking cool, and we all gave him like $5 because he fucking earned it like a motherfucker. That man should be going on Penn and Teller's Fool Us, or maybe America's Got Talent. It was a great routine, and he's even got a little something to get the crowd energized. You know, just start throwing coke out. I could see him being a big magician someday. Hopefully he's doing well. We called it a night right after that because it certainly wasn't getting better than that magic show, and it certainly wasn't getting cheaper. So we went back to the hotel, and we started just drinking all of the alcohol we brought. That was a lot of fun, just 5 guys in the hotel room getting absolutely shit-faced because they couldn't afford to elsewhere. And I got extremely drunk, probably the drunkest I've ever been, and I blacked out. And then the next day, we all planned to go to the beach, but I was so incredibly fucked up that I needed to keep having the taxi driver pull over so I could puke. We finally got to the beach, and I still had to keep puking, but apparently all of the areas on the beach don't really have bathrooms. Miami doesn't believe in bathrooms, so I went to a Walgreens. They don't have a bathroom. I went to the next door business that I don't remember. They didn't have a bathroom. I went to the other business next door, which was probably like a cocaine supplier. I don't really know what it was, but it was a dilapidated little business. They didn't have a bathroom, so I ended up just puking on the road. I just figured, why not? I had nowhere else to go, and I'm sure it's pretty commonplace in Miami. I'm sure I'm about the 5th guy that morning to puke on that road. And I was feeling like shit for the rest of the entire day. The beach was underwhelming. It was just like every other beach in Florida. There was nothing super special about it except for some trivia, like Dexter Season 2 was filmed, or the Dexter intro was filmed on that beach. Like, who gives a fuck? It was so boring. At least right up until a Category 5 hurricane hit Miami that day. It wasn't an actual hurricane, but there was a goddamn monsoon that blew through and completely annihilated us. Apparently there was like a fucking news warning that went out, like, this is going to be the biggest storm we've had in 10 years. And we weren't listening to the news or anything, so we just went to the beach. There wasn't a whole lot of people there, but I can see why now. And it was just this incredibly disastrous storm that hit, with intense wind that was nearly knocking me over and my friends, and this hardest rain ever. It was like we were getting hit by baseballs. It was so miserable. Walked away bruised and bloody, but undeterred. Our spirits were still as high as they could be, you know, because come that night we were ready to try again. Bars were out of the question because we couldn't afford the drinks, so we thought, how about clubs? So we went to a club. I don't remember the name of it. It might have been Platinum or something to that degree. $300 to get into that club. That's excluding drinks. That's not included. $300 just to go in there. Unbelievable. Needless to say, we all didn't have $300 a person to pay to get into this shit-ass club on the side of the fucking road. So we didn't go to that club. I don't know why it was $300. Maybe Jay-Z, Post Malone, Lil Wayne, and Johnny Cash was revived and they were all playing that night. That might justify $300 to go in there. But we didn't do it, so that was another bust. And then we decided, how about a strip club? Miami's famous for their strip clubs, and we thought maybe King of Diamonds would be fun. But this time we wisened up before paying for the extremely expensive ride to the King of Diamonds or anywhere in Miami. We decided to look up how much it is at King of Diamonds. Way too expensive. In a nutshell, way too expensive. Strippers there probably wouldn't even look at you if you were throwing dollars at them. You'd have to be showering hundreds to even get them to look in your direction. So we didn't go to King of Diamonds or any other strip club either. That was day 2. Day 3, we gave up. Day 3, we took a day to just recoup. We hung out in the hotel. We walked around Miami just at like little mom and pop stores, I enjoyed that. That was kind of fun. We saw a little bit of the city. We went to some stores, couldn't afford anything there because you can't afford anything in Miami. That's the main lesson to take away from the experience. But we went to some little diners and stuff and tried a bunch of different foods that I'd never heard of before, which was kind of nice. But that was day 3. Spring break's really kicking in nice. Day 4, we tried one more time. We went to different bars. The prices were a little bit better than at the Frankie show, the Frankie Way, whatever that bar is. The prices were a little bit better. So we all chipped in and bought a pitcher, which was just kind of the most pathetic drinking experience I've ever had because we were all just defeated. Like, you know what, guys? How much money do we have left? 15 quarters. All right, let's just see if we can haggle a pitcher of beer off of this bar here. And miraculously we did get a pitcher, and we all just kind of drank away the spring break because it was bad. I would have had more fun spending spring break in a sensory deprivation tank than in Miami. It was an absolutely miserable experience. The worst spring break I've ever had, and definitely the worst spring break I think a college kid could have. We lost pretty much all of the money we brought with us and had nothing to show for it. But it was kind of a good looking city. It was kind of pretty, and walking around trying a bunch of different foods was kind of fun. I would never recommend anyone ever go to Miami because you just can't afford to, unless you're taking out a mortgage, taking out some loans or something to be able to afford anything at all there. You're just not going to be able to have any fun. There's also a huge drug problem there, from what I could tell. I don't really keep up with the Miami news or anything. But walking the beach and shit, there are so many people asking you if you want to buy drugs, which was really uncomfortable. But overall, hated Miami. I would never recommend you spend spring break in Miami. Anywhere else. Literally spring break anywhere else. Go to fucking Antarctica, you'll have more fun. I don't really care where you go, but you will not have fun in Miami. That's the gist of it. That's it. See ya.
What's up, everybody? It's Critical. I wanted to share a story with you all about an experience I've had with Tinder. I haven't told a story in a while, and I thought this was a good one to tell. I still have Tinder, but I don't use it anymore. And over the last year, I only really used it to survey my matches about Brendan Fraser and just kind of gauge their interest in a Brendan Fraser comeback. Basically, I was just a fucking Brendan Fraser epidemiologist on Tinder. But that wasn't always the case. Back when Tinder was first starting to get big a few years ago, I put a lot of effort there and went on a few dates from Tinder. The majority of the dates were absolutely atrocious, just abysmal. But one date in particular will stand out as the worst date I've ever had, and probably will ever have. It's the worst date you could ever have. So I was talking to this girl from Tinder, and she was a real cutie patootie, and I was making some smooth moves. Hey girl, you got that baloney, I got that turbo dick, let's make a sex sandwich. You know, some real suave shit. Yahar, matey, your cooter be wet and me willy wants to set sail. Let's fuck, you know, some good shit, and she was into it. So we had come up with a whole date day, you know, we were gonna meet and do all these things together, and it was gonna be a fun day. And when that day rolled around, it turned out there was no fun to be had whatsoever. So the plan was I was gonna pick her up and we were gonna get food first, but I couldn't really figure out which house was hers because the address was all kind of fucked up in the GPS. I guess she lived in an underground bunker. So I pulled up to this weird looking house. It looked like a little crack shack, and then an old man exited the door as I was texting her. So I was like, oh shit, this guy that looks like a ZZ Top member's coming into my car. I've been bamboozled. I've been schmeckeldorfed. But then she calls me, and it turns out I was just at her neighbor's house. But then when I pulled up to her house and she exited the door, it was the exact same experience. This girl looked nothing like her Tinder pictures or any of the Snapchats she sent me. This was a completely different person. But she was fun to talk to, so, you know, I still thought it was still going to be a fun day, even though she didn't look like what I expected or anything like that. So she opens my car, and as she sits down, she just rips ass. Just fucking explodes from the anus. It's like she just jumped on a whoopee cushion once she got in my car. And there was no reasonable excuse you could make here, you know, like, oh, damn sneaky sneakers making fart noises down there. No. It was very clear to everyone, including God, that was a really hard breaking of wind. But she tried her best to try and hide the sound, so she just started coughing super loud, so that way, you know, oh, it was just a cough, a really loud cough. But she really overdid it. She went into a fucking 40-second coughing fit for a 1-second ass rippage. I don't understand. Maybe she was just farting the whole time she was under this coughing spell, just shitting her pants in my passenger seat. But I was worried I was going to have to fucking take her to the hospital. She just kept coughing and coughing and coughing, and I was panicking. And then, all of a sudden, she stopped and apologizes, and that's when the smell hits. This disgusting, foul Methodist fills my car, and it takes the breath right out of me. It makes my eyes water and my nose burn. It's like a biological weapon was just unleashed within my vehicle. I didn't know how to react, but I couldn't point out this elephant in the anus here. I just needed to pretend like I didn't smell anything. So I tried to act completely normal, but she was saying something to me and I couldn't make out what she was saying because it was as if a grenade had just gone off in this car. My ears were ringing, my vision was blurry. Her voice was muffled, her words were gibberish. She sounded like a fucking adult character in the Charlie Brown cartoon. Nothing was making sense. For a moment, I had exited this corporeal world through a fart. But then the dust began to settle and I came back to reality. And I just asked her to repeat what she said, and she did. I don't remember what she said. All that was on my mind is, how can I get out of this? So I came up with this genius plan, this absolutely brilliant scheme. So I told her, hey, look, I forgot my dad told me he wanted to go bowling today. We already made the plan last week, and I can't leave him hanging like this, so we can go get lunch, but after that, I've got to skedaddle. And she wasn't buying it. She knew something was awry here. What bowling alley are you going to, she asks. As beads of sweat start streaming down my face, I start trying to connect words that could sound like a bowling alley. So I came up with Sky King Pins. It doesn't really sound like a bowling alley. It sounds like somewhere you'd go to watch airplanes race against each other, but it was the best I could do at the time. And she was okay with that. What pound of bowling ball do I use? 15. First one that came to mind. I usually use a 16. I throw the fucking lead down there. I throw fucking cannonballs when I go bowling, but 15 because it's the first number that popped into my head when she said that. Next question. How old's my dad? That one caught me off guard. I don't know why she asked me that. I don't understand the relevance, but still she asked, and the only thing I could think of was my dad wouldn't be happy if I told someone else's age. Then she asked me a couple other really stupid questions, but one that was a real tit slapper, one that I knew I'd have to be very careful with how I answered. She asked, okay, can we hang out after you're done bowling with your dad? I didn't know what to do. This was the Gordian knot that I'd need to cut here. How could I address this question? Because I don't like to hurt anyone's feelings. I don't like to make anyone feel bad. So I couldn't just say, no, of course we can't. I just had to tiptoe around it. So I came up with this really long-winded story, this very elaborate novel of what we were going to participate in after bowling. Oh, after we go get a few strikes, we were all going to go to my grandma's house where she's making her world-famous salmon sugar pancakes. I'm sorry, it's just got a whole lot of plans for the rest of the day I won't be able to. And she was disappointed but understood because, Grandma's whipping up her good old-fashioned dirt and soil crumpets or whatever the fuck I told her she was making. I don't even remember what meal I said. But she understood. And then we got to the restaurant. We got our food. Things were winding down. Eating, there was nothing too out of the ordinary that happened there. Just general small talk until she got a phone call from her parents. They had called her to yell and scream at her because her grades were slipping. I could hear most of it. It was extremely uncomfortable to sit through. It sounded like she was being shouted at by a fucking drill sergeant. And then she started breaking down into tears in the restaurant. And I'm not really good when people are crying around me. I don't really know how to handle that. So I would just kind of, cheer up, sport. They don't know you. You're strong, and it's just school. Come on, champ. You don't let that affect you. We're having such a great day. Come on, just think of all the fun we're having here. You're farting and shitting in my car and stuff, and now you're crying in this restaurant. Come on, let's just get you home. It was just very uncomfortable. There's not even words I could use to describe just how awful that situation was for the both of us. Because I know it was shitty for her too. Because she's crying in front of this person she hardly knows. And that was pretty much the end of the date. I brought her home. The car ride was completely silent for the 15 minutes from the restaurant to her place. And then she just said, all right, see ya. And I was like, all right, take it easy. Peace out. I'm outski. I'm bouncing. I said all of those to her, and then I went and left. And then I checked with her later to see if she was feeling better about that whole situation with her parents, and she said she was, so that's good. But yeah, that's the worst date I've ever had, and also pretty much my experience with Tinder summed up into one story. And yeah, that's it. See ya. What's up, everybody? It's Critical. For years, I've gotten emails asking me to tell more stories, so that's what I'm going to do tonight. Cozy on up, pop a squat down by the fireplace, and listen to my nipples. Ashamedly, this tale isn't that old. It happened last year. After my long-term relationship ended, I had devolved into a socially inept husk. I had completely forgotten how to flirt or talk to females in a romantic way. It was bad. Every time I even tried to talk to a girl, I sounded like a troglodyte ODing on sleeping pills, and God forbid a girl ever made the mistake of starting a conversation with me. They would soon find out that I was fundamentally fluent in aphasia. The shit that was coming out of my mouth was just unintelligible. It was downright disrespectful to humanity how bad I was at flirting. But there's one night in particular that I still lose sleep over when I think back on. One event that to this day, when I'm about to ejaculate, makes my penis tingle in an unpleasant way. It was the very first weekend after my breakup, and I was going to a bar with my friends. I was going out with the intent of just drinking and having a good time and not worrying about anything. But my friend's sister insisted she wingman me that night, and I knew deep down in my soul that it would be a fucking train wreck. The night was darker than usual, the moon tucked away behind the clouds as if trying to cover its eyes and shield itself from the awkwardness that was about to unfold at this poor little bar. as if the moon knew just how shitty this experiment was going to turn out. But anyways, in my friend's sister's defense, she was an outstanding wingman, but the odds were stacked against her because she was trying to wingman a fucking sinking ship of social skills. So she was taking me to meet everyone at the bar. We met a ton of people. She was just dragging me along like I was her suitcase, except this suitcase wasn't filled with clothes or toiletries, it was just filled with awkwardness. And nothing too noteworthy happened. I managed to meet all of these new people without shitting my britches, which was a Herculean task, so that's an accomplishment that I'm very proud of. But then the very last two people we met will forever be etched into my memory. It was two attractive women, just casually drinking at one of the tables by the bar, as the bar was clearing out since it was getting late. The weatherman may have predicted cloudy with moderate humidity, but what he couldn't predict, what no one could have predicted, was the storm of awkwardness that was about to befall the area. My friend approached them the same as she had all the others, and as I trailed behind her, I could feel something deep inside of me pulling me, as if a future version of myself was trying to yank me away from the situation so I wouldn't have this memory. But alas, I disregarded the feeling and continued forward, each step towards their table, a new scar that I bear. We make it to the table. Small talk begins. Names are exchanged. I instantly forget both of their names, but I remember how I introduced myself to them. I extended my hand for a handshake like I'm conducting a fucking business meeting. Oh yes, ladies, I'll need the stock reports on my desk, 8 a.m. sharp. But the worst part of this gesture is when they do oblige my handshake, I kung fu grip them. I grab their hands hard as shit. It's like that scene in The Predator where Arnold Schwarzenegger and Carl Weathers get in the handshaking competition. Oh, they got you pushing too many pencils. Well, I was pushing too much awkwardness right from the get-go. So yeah, suboptimal start, bit of a rocky beginning. Chalk that one up to nerves though, you know, that's excusable. So my friend's sister starts distracting one of the girls. Oh, do you go to UT too? What sorority are you in? This and that. Working under the assumption that I am not a bumbling goober and can handle a one-on-one conversation with the other girl. Rookie mistake. I absolutely could not handle that in any capacity. It was abysmal. I have no doubt. I can say with confidence that it is the worst conversation she had ever been a part of, and probably to this day is still the worst conversation she has ever been a part of. With each sentence that I diarrheaed out, I could feel it getting more and more uncomfortable for the both of us. So, do you like alcohol? I mean, it's a good beverage. Envelope adhesives, how do they keep those damn things together? You know, some strong shit. Oh, this is some nice shoes. I like shoes. I wear shoes sometimes, too. I don't wear shoes when I sleep, though. I take shoes off when I sleep. I'm not weird. I don't take the shoes. It was fucking miserable. And this continues for about 15 or 20 minutes. I don't know how she resisted the urge to just puke in my face, but she just let me keep going. I'm just over here hooting and hollering about our universe being a simulation or some shit. And then eventually she gets so bored, and I'm confused because I'm having a conversation with myself in my head, and I'm having one with her. So I was just, by the end of it, I didn't know if I was talking to myself or talking to her. It was just a weird situation altogether. But she gets so bored, and she puts the kibosh on it. She says, "Look, I've been having a shit week, and I just want to go home with a guy tonight, okay?" And then she puts her hand on my hand. And then I looked her in the eyes. We locked eyes for a minute. And I said to her, "Well, you're going to have to hurry up because the bar's clearing out. I wish you the best of luck finding a guy, but if you don't find one, I'll eat your pussy for a little bit if you want." That is verbatim what I said to her in response to that. I could never forget those words. They're burned into my brain. The second those escaped my mouth, I became sober. I was inebriated going into it. I said that, and then I could have flown a fucking plane at that point. I could feel my asshole pucker. My anus was becoming the universe. It was like every cell in my body was being bludgeoned by a cactus. For me, this was proof that whatever higher power or creator exists, they truly don't care about this world. Because if they did, they would have sent a fucking wild ice cream truck to take me out right then and there. And the look on her face, I will never forget it. It was a look of pure shock, confusion, and anger. Every emotion a human is capable of feeling, she felt in that moment. And then she pretended to get a phone call so she had an excuse to leave. That makes her a good person in my book, because what she should have done is say, "Hey, get the fuck away from me, you creepy homunculus," or something to that effect, because that's what I deserved. She was nice enough to actually make it seem like she just had something else to do instead of just telling me to fuck off, which she absolutely had a right to do because she had just put up with my ranting and raving for 20 minutes, and then I basically just rejected her to her face with my last little humdinger there. So to me, that woman is a hero. Now to make matters even worse though, my friend's sister and the girl's friend heard what I said. It's like the music in the bar just cut out and everyone stopped talking right before I uttered those words. But luckily, she never mentioned it because I'm assuming she erased it from her memory immediately after, so that way she would spare her mind the anguish of trying to comprehend what the fuck I was thinking when I said that. But yeah, so that's the story. It was by far the most uncomfortable situation I'd ever been a part of and created. I mean, I did both. I was both the participant and the orchestrator. So it was weird, but yeah, that's the story. That's it. So yeah. What's up everybody, it's Critical. I just got back from the gym and I had a pretty interesting experience. This isn't your standard tale of seeing an old man schlong or just some old dude flopping his wiener around in the locker room. Those are a dime a dozen. This is a true tale of discomfort. So I went to my apartment's little gym. It's pretty shitty. It has like 2 treadmills and a slab of concrete that you're supposed to use for everything else. And I only go there because it's so close by. There's no reason not to. So I'm going to the Iron Temple trying to get my pump on to pray to the creatine gods, way men. It was just me and this one dude and his girlfriend. The dude looked like the offspring of the Naked Brothers band lead singer in Popeye. He was fucking massive but was somehow shorter than me, which is extremely rare. His face also looked like he had just gotten out of middle school, but I'm sure he was around my age, like 23, 24. And he was bumping some really shitty music from a small 1990s boombox. The audio quality was just abysmal. It sounded like it was being transmitted via ham radio while underwater. I could barely make out some of this shit, but I could recognize some of the songs. Already this man has checked one pet peeve of mine, which is just playing music for everyone to hear. Why not just put on headphones? But regardless, he's just letting these flaccid jams blare, and he's singing along too, and he's dancing. He doesn't even care that I'm there. I don't even think he's registered my presence, even though I'm right in front of him. So I'm immediately uncomfortable before I've even started any of my sets. And this man's just fucking animal. He's going straight barbarian mode. He was on a cable machine that the gym has, and he was just like fucking throwing it forward. It was like he was doing, it wasn't even an exercise I'd seen before. It was like he was throwing footballs with both of his hands, like working on his passing technique. His girlfriend was doing squats. All the while he's doing this tribal rain dance, he's singing the song that's playing. I don't know what song it was, but the chorus he was singing goes, "Fuck me to sleep." So he was just singing that, just letting it howl. I don't know why you would sing that chorus out loud. It's a pretty shitty chorus, and it's a pretty stupid thing to be singing out loud, but whatever. This man's, he's letting it go. He's doing his thing. I respect that. He's fucking feeling himself. And I'm just trying not to laugh, because it was just so goofy to me seeing this meatball of a man just saying, "Fuck me to sleep." I didn't want to laugh because I didn't want to feel his wrath. He would probably fuck me up. He'd break me in half, I bet. He was super huge, and he was pumping some big weight. I'm not going to sell the dude short. But this was just one of many weird things he engaged in my 30-45 minutes in that gym today. He had a bunch of dumbbells thrown about everywhere that he was using for alternating bicep curl sets. He was also using the cable machine, the bench for bench pressing, the Smith machine, and then one other machine that I'm blanking on the name of. Literally every machine that the gym has he was using. Fucking cartwheels on the treadmill, you name it, he was going to be using it. And whatever he wasn't using, his girlfriend was using. All I got was some 25-pound dumbbells I could shove up my asshole. So that kind of rubbed my cock the wrong way, but there's nothing I can do about it. I tried to work in with him. I asked if I could, and he just said no because his girlfriend was working in with him or something. That checks another one of my pet peeves, which is hogging everything even though you're not going to be using it at the time. But I wasn't going to fight him or anything. I'm not going to try and pick a fight with this human sloppy Joe. I'm just going to use my 25-pound dumbbells. Fuck it. I guess it's better than nothing. So I'm just doing my thing, with my 25-pound dumbbells. And then this man goes and checks off another one of my pet peeves, which is flexing in the mirror and taking his shirt off. I absolutely hate when people do that at the gym where they start checking themselves out. This man's just fucking feeling his titties and flexing really hard in front of his girlfriend. And once again, I was trying not to laugh at him because his girlfriend was about 8 or 9 inches taller than him, looking down and pretending to be impressed by it. I could tell she didn't really care and just wanted to finish her workout and be done for the day. But I started to get used to his singing and the hogging of all the weights and his bizarre exercises he was doing. I wouldn't have been surprised if they had picked up the boombox and started playing volleyball with it to train their triceps. I'm starting to wind down my workout, and I could tell they were starting to be towards the end of theirs as well. And then they did something I've never seen before. It's that kind of shit that you only see on YouTube from like fitness couples that do some wacky, crazy shit. They gave it their best attempt and it didn't work. So the girl went down into like a pretzel position and the guy was doing like a reverse praying dog yoga pose. And then the girl rolled on top of the guy and he assumed a planking position, and then she just started doing some push-ups on his back, and meanwhile the dude's acting like an old fucking fitness DVD workout guy who's, come on, keep at it, you can do better, I expect more from you. What, you milk babies with those titties? I don't believe it, come on. And this girl's fucking sweating trying to do push-ups on his back, and he's not happy with it. She was busting her ass for these push-ups, but he didn't think she was giving it her all, so then it was his turn to do this on her back. So she gets in a plank position, and this man gets in his push-up position on her back, and he starts fucking jackhammering her with push-ups, just fucking nailing him out, and this girl's just like fucking wobbling all over the place. It was like a Street Fighter Turbo Ultimate finishing move. This man was trying to drive his girlfriend into the Earth's core. He was like a bodybuilding plunger, and his girlfriend was the clogged toilet. The shit was brutal. Just absolutely brutalizing his poor girlfriend with these push-ups. I have no doubt that there was some lumbar issues afterwards. It was truly fantastic, an experience I really can't do justice with words. It's one of those things that if you saw it, it would be something you'd never forget. And I will definitely never forget that. I was pretty much done working out. 25 pounds isn't enough to get in a decent workout in any capacity. I was really just kind of killing time to watch them. I was just kind of a spectator for their show they were putting on. And then they pretty much wrapped up after that. They did like 1 or 2 more sets that were really boring, and then they just kind of left. So then I left shortly after. But it was a fantastic experience, and it made me really appreciate my apartment complex's gym. I'm going to try and sync up my workout schedule with theirs now and hope that they go there at this time usually, because I want to see some more of this shit. But yeah, that's it. So yeah. What's up everybody, it's Critical, and I want to talk about something genuinely important today. So one thing that I've done for pretty much my whole life is I try and see what's wrong with the world. I see what's broken, and I never have a solution to fix it because I know there's jack shit I can do to actually fix these big issues. I'm just a normal man with 2 nipples. I jerk off sometimes. Sometimes I don't jerk off. I'm not in a position of power or a position where I can actually make a difference in these issues. But I do like to talk about them sometimes, like when I talked about the college textbook scam last month. I like to bring these issues to your attention so that way it'll make you all think, and maybe some of you will view them as a big issue as well, and maybe even have a solution to them. So the issue I want to talk about today is the false positive field drug test that the police use. Now this isn't going to be some big fuck the police titty fist or anything. I just wanted to talk about this field drug test that they use and how unreliable it is. So let me give you the gist of how this goes. If you get pulled over by a police officer and he has any suspicion that there's drugs in your car, he sees a fleshlight on your passenger seat. Sir, is there cocaine in that fleshlight? I'm going to have to put my penis in there to find out. If it comes out with powder, I'm going to be very suspicious. And then they'll ask to search your car, and if you don't give them your consent, most of the time they'll bring out a canine unit to sniff around your car for the presence of drugs. You don't need me to tell you how unreliable that shit is. There's a reason Clifford only played with friends and family in the TV show and wasn't around sniffing drugs in fucking trap houses or through cars. These dogs aren't Jason Bourne. You can train them all you want, but they're not gonna be able to detect drugs accurately. It's not the fucking supermen of canine species here that have X-ray cocaine sniffing vision. But regardless, a lot of the times the dogs will start barking and clawing at a door or whatever, which immediately gives the officers the right to search the vehicle. Then from that point, the officers are obligated to test any substance they find there, whether it be a food crumb or your cum, they're going to test it. And the way they test for it is they take the substance, they drop it into a little pouch, and then they break an ampule or a series of ampules, and then depending on what color the solution turns, it either detected the presence of a drug or it didn't. And these tests blow elephant anus. It would be more accurate if you tested the presence of a drug by measuring how long the person can hold a handstand for. It's just so fucking awful. So let's dive right into this shit. They use a multitude of different tests for these, but I'll just pick out the biggest ones, the most common ones. For marijuana, the biggest one is a test developed in 1972 called the Thornton and Nakamura Protocol, which has, since its inception, been proven many times to be inaccurate. There's only one study validating this in any regard, and all that study basically said is their test would be able to distinguish marijuana from other drugs. So if you drop some dank kush into their test, it will say, yes, that is some loud, noisy weed kush marijuana. It's not cocaine or meth. So if you've got a fucking monkey's fist worth of weed in your fucking test pouch, it will tell you that yes, that is marijuana. It is wildly inaccurate in any other scenario. So why do they use it then? Why has it become the gold standard? Because it is so cheap to administer. All of the field drug tests they administer are anywhere from $2 to $10, and the general public doesn't know how inaccurate they are. They don't know how bad those tests are, so no one's really up in arms about all these false positives. The test they use for cocaine is they break an ampule of cobalt thiocyanate, and that will turn blue when exposed to cocaine.
But the problem is, that shit will turn Smurf skin blue in the presence of Tylenol or Mucinex or a plethora of other very common materials and foods, so that shit is just useless. And there's another fundamental problem with using the changing of colors as the end-all be-all for drug convictions. That shit is subjective. It is up to the officer's discretion if it really is a positive or not. And there's a lot of things at play. If it's really sunny out, that's going to change their perception of the color. If it's really dark out, that's going to change the perception. Their flashing lights will do that as well. There is so many things at play that it's just impossible to get accurate readings of the color, so that shouldn't be used. But with 1.2 million people a year getting arrested on illegal drug possession, a lot of those come from these field drug test results, and it is the end-all be-all. If you get that positive, you're going to have some repercussions. Of the people who do get tried on these results, most of them accept a plea deal, which fucks them. A lot of them go to jail, which obviously fucks them. And now I know a lot of you are asking, what's the point? Why would they be going to jail for something so trivial? And the answer is pretty simple. The prison system is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and the more people they lock up, the more money they get. That's not some conspiracy, that's genuinely how it works. And drugs are an easy target. People who use them, drug addicts, they are the easiest target to just throw in jail. Because no one bats an eye when a drug addict goes to jail. No one thinks, damn, they probably should have gotten help instead of going to jail. That would have been a more logical situation. Even families turn on their own children if they find out they're drug addicts. They're like, yep, fuck. Turns out Rutherford was a drug addict. He deserves to be behind bars. Instead of reflecting, maybe it's my fault as a parent for not being there for him and reaching out and trying to get him help. So by going after drugs, they have this very good cushion that they can use, so there's no really backlash. Yep, this person tested positive for drugs there. They deserve to be in jail, right? And society will be like, yep, drug addict, he had drugs, deserves to be in jail. That's generally the consensus because people associate drug addicts with bad people instead of people who just need help. So they can prey on that all day long. So far I've kind of just wanted to give a general overview of everything, and now I want to get more specific on the field drug tests that they administer that ruin people. So this video is from the Marijuana Policy Project, and they state that 70% of the time these field drug tests give a false positive. That's worse than a coin flip. That's like flipping the coin, catching it, and then wiping your ass with it, and then just saying heads or tails. It is abysmal, and then they demonstrate just how shitty these tests are. So they opened the bag and just filled it with air. It was a completely empty bag with just air in it. They did the test and it tested positive for the substance. They put Tylenol PM in the cocaine test. Tylenol PM tested positive for being cocaine. Every single chocolate bar tests positive for marijuana, and the list goes on and on and on. There is so many cases. A man had a Jolly Rancher tested from his car and it tested positive for meth. Another man was thrown in jail because they tested sugar from his car and it tested positive for cocaine. These aren't isolated incidents or flukes. You can do them yourself. These tests are so fucking cheap. You can just go to Toys R Us and get Barbie's first drug test pouch and it'd be just as accurate as the ones they're using. And these chemistry jokes ruin people's lives. And I'm not blaming the officers for it. I really genuinely don't think they know how bad these tests are. But these tests absolutely demolish a person's life. They will be outcasted by their family if they don't go to jail. If they do go to jail, well then I don't even need to tell you how fucked they are. If they do a plea deal, they are still super duper fucked. There is no winning if you get a false positive, and you are more likely, way more likely to get a false positive than an accurate reading. I don't want to get into any statistics about how many innocent people are behind bars right now because of these false positives, or how many people have been turbo ass blasted by these field drug tests. So I'm just going to put links to the sources that I've used in the description of this video, so that way you can read more about it yourself if you're curious. So yeah, I mean, there's really no more scientific testing that can be done to prove how bad these tests are. It's kind of scientific fact that these suck shit. So I think really the only thing now that will fix it is if people actually start making a big hubbub about how awful these drug tests are and that they shouldn't be used. So that's kind of why I made this. I just wanted to talk about the issue and bring it to light and hopefully raise some awareness about the problem. And yeah, that's about it. See ya. What's up everybody, it's Critical. Wanted to tell another story tonight. A couple years ago I used to mention from time to time that the hardest class I ever took in my academic career was a ceramics class in my sophomore year of college.
And back then, a lot of people used to ask me to elaborate on it, and I just kind of figured now was the optimal time to do so, 2 or 3 years later when the interest has really peaked in the ceramics story. I see people all the time buzzing in the comments. Do you guys remember 3 years ago in that video that has 4 views on it in total, when he mentioned ceramics being such a hard course? I just need to know how it could be so fucking difficult. So, that coupled with the fact that ceramics in general has been a really trendy topic in the world recently, because I believe there's only one human being left that's still practicing the art of ceramics, so I figured it's time to strike while the iron's hot and get in on this ceramics action. So my roommate and I, we're going to go ahead and call him G, because that's actually what he prefers to be called in real life, because he doesn't like his real name, so he wants people to call him G. I know it's some Men in Black type shit, but I respect it and I think it's pretty damn cool. G and I took a ceramics course. It was 4 credits. We both really needed the credits, and we thought it would be an easy A and it would be an enjoyable experience. But it turned out it was absolutely miserable. I would rather have my ass cheeks crushed by a hydraulic press than go through that class again. The nightmare really began on the first day of class. We immediately knew we had made a massive mistake taking this course. The professor rolls in by damn near kicking down the door because he was carrying a plate of his favorite ceramic pieces that he himself made over the years, and he was just extremely excited to show us what real ceramics looked like, so he made this fucking extreme entrance that looked like a cereal commercial from the early 90s. He comes stumbling in like he's trying to balance on a pair of invisible roller skates. He had a very difficult time walking a straight line for whatever reason, and he also created thunderously loud footsteps everywhere he went. I swear he just slapped his feet on the ground as hard as he could. You could hear him coming from a mile away. If you had a drink on the table, it would be like that scene in Jurassic Park if the fucking ceramics professor was on his way. It'd just start jiggling and shit, and you'd know he was on his way. It was just very unnecessary and obnoxious. So he rolls in, he's sporting a pair of jean shorts, a yellow polo, and an apron, and this was his standard uniform. You would not find him in anything but this attire. If you found him in any other clothes, you would basically found the Mewtwo in Pokemon Go. That shit just was not going to happen. Sometimes the color of the polo would vary, but he would always be wearing jean shorts and an apron. He had really blonde hair and gray eyebrows and a white mustache. It was a very strange clash of colors, but his mustache was the most interesting piece to me because it wasn't just the normal mustache. He wanted it to be the Hulk Hogan mustache, but his genetics, his facial hair just wouldn't allow him to have it. But it didn't matter. He may not have had the look of Hulk Hogan, but he certainly embodied the spirit, because Hulkmania ran wild in that fucking ceramics class. Shit was just brutal. He surprise suplexed every single student in that class. He let us know right away that it was going to be the hardest course of the semester, and he was not wrong. We would have a quiz every week and a test every 2 weeks on the history of ceramics. Obviously there's no textbook on the subject because no one gives a shit about the history of ceramics except for him. So what he did is, over the course of a few years, he made hundreds of videos on the history of ceramics and put them on Vimeo, and we would have to watch them in order to pass the quizzes and the tests, and each video ranged from 3 to 4 hours, and I swear to you, he made up every sentence. Each video was just a jumbled, filthy mess of ass grease. It sounded like a badly written Magic Treehouse book. It was just so fucking abysmal. He would say things like, "Oh yes, of the Aztecian tribe, Chief Barbed Scrotum was boinking his wife while making the world's first teacup. When he finished, he exclaimed, 'Teacup, made have I,' in quotations, as if I'm supposed to believe that my fucking ceramics professor was there, watching Chief Penis Hair plow his wife and make this ceramics piece. But he tried to play it off as fact. He would even cite sources. My ass. It was just fucking nonsense, but he would actually make it a question on his quiz or his test. Just this really quick shout out in one of his videos here. At hour 1 minute 43, I was mentioning Aztecian Chief Nutsack Wax making the world's teacup. Verbatim, what did he say when he finished? And if you didn't get every word right, you just got the whole question wrong. There was no debating it. It was just fucking stupid. The whole thing was just dumb. And if the quizzes and the tests weren't bad enough, this man was beyond strict with the actual ceramics pieces we had to make. He gave us the world's worst directions on how to make the pots. He just made the whole thing sexual for absolutely no reason. Oh yes, you take your clay right here, and he's just holding it right near his cock. You just start, putting your thumbs in there. You want to get them real deep in there. You want to get those fingers in there too. You gotta make sure it's at least 2 inches thick. If it's not 2 inches thick, you're getting kicked out of my fucking class. I swear to you. Fucking swear to you. I'll call your parents. He was just super creepy about it. Didn't help anyone. Our first assignment was to create 4 pots to his exact unrealistic specifications with no exception. There was no such thing as real pots have curves in that classroom, because if you didn't have your ceramics pieces to the exact dimensions that this professor could jerk off to, you weren't gonna pass the class. You were getting an F. There was only an A or an F. If he could come in the pot and be satisfied with his load in there, you got an A. If he couldn't see himself coming in that pot, he'd either break it or just give you an F and take it. It was just miserable. And we also had to paint the pots with slip, but that shit's just impossible. I don't even want to get into it. Fucking Pablo Picasso couldn't paint a pot using slip. It's just stupid. That was just dumb. So needless to say, G and I didn't do very well on the first 4 pots. We had spent at least 20 hours working on them, and he said it didn't even look like we tried, which was just incredibly insulting because he saw us spending a lot of time in that stupid ceramics laboratory just working on this stupid shit. Yes, I understand my pots came out looking like chicken eggs that had been stepped on, and G's looked like clumps of asbestos. But still, you shouldn't be grading on your students' artistic prowess considering this was a 100 level course for non-art majors. That's just not fair. You should be grading on using the techniques, improvements, shit like that. So that was just ridiculous. But the next one is the one I will never forget. The project was to make a big ceramic vase, and G spent an extraordinarily long amount of time on this one. And he even said to me, Charlie, I'm going to kiss some ass real quick. So he even made a special piece just for the professor to let him know that he was putting in the extra time and the effort. So when the critique day rolled around, G presented him with his present first before the class started. And I was with him, and the professor looked it over for a moment. Then he looked up with the most menacing, hollow, soulless eyes I'd ever seen, just staring a hole through G. And then he piercingly asks him, "What is this?" in the most condescending tone I'd ever heard. And then G says, "I made it for you. It was a present. I just wanted you to know that I'm putting in that extra work that you thought I needed to do." And the professor slaps it out of his hand onto the floor, walks away, doesn't say anything else. And then G has to embarrassingly pick it up and throw it in the trash. It was absolutely surreal. It was just downright evil. And I think he held a grudge because when it was G's turn to be critiqued on his vase, he was testing the structural integrity of it and accidentally broke the vase. And by break, I mean fucking exploded that shit. He was pressing on the sides with so much force. It was like he's trying to do a fucking Hulk clap. It was like that scene in Ricky-O where that man smashes the prisoner's head like a watermelon. That's what he did to G's vase. Just fucking destroys it and then fails him because it wasn't strong enough. I don't know what the fuck the professor was expecting. No ceramics are designed to withstand crushing force from a fucking floppy Subway sandwich of a man. That's just ridiculous. Obviously, G dropped the course after that incident, but it was just so hard to sit through and just witness. It was just absolutely mind-boggling how a professor could actually do that. I stuck with it till one more critique. The project was to create a creative bowl, and I'd just given up. I went for Bowser's shell design, but I didn't really give a shit. I just made a really wobbly bowl that didn't even sit flat, and then I threw spikes on the side of it. He hated it, obviously, but he kind of gave me a little compliment in front of the class. He held the bowl up and said, "Class, this is an example of a good idea, but absolutely horrible execution," and then set it back down and went on to critique the next person's work. Whatever, I really didn't try. And I was actually just going to stick with the class and just take the failing grade, because withdrawing from a class, dropping a class mid-semester looks a lot worse than just getting an F. But he actually pulled me aside when I went to class the week after the critique and said, "Please don't come to my class again." He actually said to me, he actually took the time away from the class to pull me into his office and ask me not to come to his class anymore. He was that disgusted with my ceramics abilities that he didn't want me tainting his class with my artistic ineptitude. It took every ounce of my willpower not to rip my shirt off and motorboat his face with my nipples. I wanted so badly to slap this man across the face and ask him who his daddy was. Didn't do either of those things, and I just withdrew from the class. It was just, I don't even know how to describe that experience. That was such a message that this guy hated my ceramics so much and thought that it was such a big waste of his valuable time that I shouldn't even just go to his class. Like, let's say I genuinely enjoyed ceramics and I just wasn't good at it. He's gonna tell me that I'm so bad I don't have the right to even try or go to his class? Fuck you, man. What a colossal sack of shit he is. But yeah, that's my ceramics experience, so yeah, that's it. So yeah. I don't think I've ever shared a story about myself so embarrassing that it changes the way you look at me. I've shared a lot of embarrassing stories with girls and shit that I've had in the past, but nothing that's so goddamn game-changingly cringe-inducing that you vomit and think less of me until today. I was trying to think of a story that I wanted to talk about because I wanted to tell a really embarrassing one today, but I wanted to like amp this shit up to like the highest fucking level I could. So I was going to my past, of which there is a myriad of embarrassing stories to choose, but I wanted to find the perfect one.
and then I remembered something that made me sick to my goddamn stomach. So I can't wait to share it with all of you. So to preface this happened in high school. The year is 2011. This was right after my third lung collapse. If you've been following me for a while, you know my lung collapsed 3 times. And the last time it happened was 2011. Well, in 2011, I got surgery to have it fixed. And before I went into surgery, there was a girl I had a crush on that had just added me back on Facebook. And I decided I'd send her like this goddamn scholarly "oorah, I love you" message to her. And we had never spoken. So this girl and I never spoke once in our lives, not even by accident. If I farted somewhere in school, there's no way she would ever fucking smell it because we were never even close to each other in any sense of the word. The only reason we even knew about each other, or rather the only reason I knew about her, was because she was a cheerleader and I played basketball. Other than that, no communication, literally not even eye contact. And yet for some reason, in 2011, I sent this girl the most disgustingly embarrassing messages when I was in the hospital. I haven't read them. I screenshotted them today, and I sent them to myself so I could read them to you today, and we can experience this together as a lesson in how not to ever approach a woman in any way. So allow me, please. Pickup artist legend Charlie is going to guide you through the how-don'ts, the do-nots of women. So let's go ahead and get into these messages here. So ace pussy slang god Charles in 2011 leads with, "I know you and I have never talked, but I just wanted to tell you that you are one of the most beautiful girls I have ever seen." Now, some of you might hear that and think I came on a little too strong. Looking back on it now, hindsight's 2020, I don't think I came on strong enough. I should have led with "I love you," signed Charles, and then like a little kiss, and then maybe go from there. So after I said this, she responds with a simple question mark. Nothing else, just one character, a question mark. I was already in the hospital, but if I wasn't, that right there would have sent me to the hospital with fucking cardiac arrest. That shit hurt so goddamn bad at the time. But I mean, what can you expect when someone leads with some shit like this? This is the kind of shit you see on Twitter with like a bad English associated with it, with a "send bobs and bitch lasagna, please. Vagina look good with penis" and stuff like that. It's a creepy message. Any girl should respond with a question mark or nothing at all. But anyway, my spirits weren't deterred. I continued. "Yeah, I'm in the hospital and just said, fuck it. It's worth a try. You probably don't think the same. You probably don't think the same about me, but I just wanted to say that." That's some nice guy shit right there. Jesus Christ. Well, this is pretty fucking bad. Let's keep going. To that she says, "Oh, I'm sorry," frowny face, "but thanks, I guess. Why are you in the hospital?" I'm surprised she even believed I was in the hospital, to be honest. You got a fucking stranger coming at you, pretending like he's going off to war and sending a love letter out there like it's some goddamn type of anime. If someone sent me shit like this, I'd be like, "Yeah, sure, buddy. I'm sure you're in the hospital. What do you have? Small dick syndrome going on? There's no cure. Get out of my DMs. I have recurrent pneumothorax in my left lung. It has collapsed 3 times, and tomorrow I have surgery to repair it." Sad violins playing, I'm sure, when I was typing this. "I just wanted to tell you that before I had the surgery. I know that it is..." Excuse me, I've got to scroll to the next one. It's a little out of order. 2019 Charlie clearly doesn't know how to fucking screenshot things in order. Here we go. "I know that it is a weird way to start a conversation. I also know that I came on way too strong telling you that." Self-awareness, key. Even back then I had it. Even back then I'm like, Jesus, I'm sounding really fucking weird, but I'm still going for it. Didn't stop me. Should have stopped me, to be honest. Yeah, that's the lesson to take away here. Don't do this. You know, at this, when you're starting to recognize like, holy shit, this is too strong and I'm being very weird, just stop. Then she says something very odd. "On behalf of all the YouTube comments, Charles, I hope you cut your hair." I'm not cutting my hair. She didn't say that. I'm just telling you, stop telling me to fucking cut my hair. I want to see what it looks like real long. I want to look like a goddamn lead singer in a mid-2000s emo band. Just let me fucking have this, alright? So anyway, she asks about the surgery and shit. Nothing to talk about there. But then, as we're starting to wrap up, I say, "Just wondering, do you know who I am? If you don't, I bet this is the most fucked up conversation you've ever been a part of." I mean, yeah, that's definitely a fucked up way of going about things, past Charles. Jesus Christ. I sound like some type of spoiled rich kid. Do you know who my father is? He invented Bing. I'm a big deal. Please, just please love me, please. God damn it. I'm in the hospital. For God's sakes, do you know who I am? God, these are such embarrassing messages. She says, "Haha, no, I do know who you are. Like, I've seen you, but that's it." Yeah, I mean, yeah, that sounds about right. I was a very odd guy, odd looking too. I had this really weird my hair looks like shit now, but back then I had an even weirder hairstyle where I shaved all like the side, the back, and the top of my head like it was a one with the clippers, but the front was about as long as it is now. So everything was pretty shaven except the bangs. So yeah, I was a fucking lunatic. It'd be hard to forget it'd be hard not to see me and make fun of me. I was one step shy of like a trench coat fedora wearing fucking loser in high school. I really was. So yeah, it makes sense that she at least remembered what I looked like because I looked like a goddamn fucking psychopath. So to that I said, "Oh, sorry. I bet this is weird for you, huh?" The only way to make things like this not weird is to keep saying, "Yeah, this is probably weird, right?" That way, it's takes the tension off. It's like, oh, he's saying it's weird. It can't be weird if he keeps talking about how weird it is. All right, it makes sense. Like pretty much every fucking line I say in here is about how weird it is, and yet I keep going. To that, she says, "I don't mind at all." So then, in closing, this is my finisher. This is my Mortal Kombat fatality. My big grand finale here. All right, cool. Maybe when I get out of here, we can talk more so I can get to know you a little better. I'm not as weird as this conversation makes me seem. You know. Little pro tip to the ladies: don't take someone up on that offer. They most likely are pretty fucking socially inept. I certainly was, 100%. We never talked after this. I can't imagine why, but we never spoke or anything. Nothing ever came of this, unsurprisingly. However, I'm sure if we did, I would have been still just as socially inept talking in person as I was on the Facebook Messenger. So the lesson, ladies and gentlemen, don't be weird. That's always the advice I give to someone going into college and shit. Just don't be weird. Don't be super forward. Don't be super out there. Just be normal conversations. Let things, simmer, develop, sniff things out. Don't just come in there guns blazing, fucking jerking off. "I love you. Do you love me?" Like, come on. Come on, 2011 Charlie. I look back on shit like this and I'm like, Jesus Christ. I never recognized how bad I was until you get older. So, it's a pretty embarrassing story. Maybe it's not as embarrassing for listening to it, but for me recollecting on this, it's fucking bad, man. Like, Jesus Christ. That girl was probably scared for her fucking life, thinking I'd be tossing pebbles at her window late at night at like 2 a.m. "Hey, did you think about me in the hospital? I'm alright now. You want to talk?" Shit, man. Well, that's the end of the story. Another nice tale for the compendium of awful interactions I've had with women, all of which being my fault, from my past. So, yeah, fuck yeah. That's it. See ya.
What's up, everybody? It's Critical. About 2 months ago, I mentioned in a video that I had OCD when I was growing up and throughout my teenage years, most of my teenage years. And since then, I've been getting a lot of emails and questions in general about how I was able to get rid of it or at least keep it under control. So I wanted to talk about that. So this is for anyone out there that has obsessive compulsive disorder, and I hope I can help you out a little bit. So my universe got ass blasted when I was around 12 years old. I started having these routines that I needed to follow or else I just didn't feel right. And then eventually these routines evolved into these rituals that I absolutely had to follow and could not break. And they were very weird rituals. I mentioned one of them in that video 2 months ago, but there was at least 100 different rituals. I had to sleep in a certain position on my bed. I couldn't even go to sleep unless I put on the movie National Treasure every fucking night. So I had that movie run every night for 2 years, and I'd just fall asleep during it. And God forbid if that CD ever got scratched, I just wasn't sleeping that night. I also had to make certain facial expressions when I was watching porn. This isn't a joke. And it had to be the same porn video. I watched the same porn video for I don't know how many fucking years. And I had these set times in that porn video where I had to make a certain expression or else I just couldn't jerk off. I'd have to take a 5-minute break and just let myself recuperate before I could go back at it. It was a horrible time, really. I mean, I'm kind of laughing at it now, but then it was horrible and I was miserable. At first I thought it was normal behavior. I thought to myself, well, I'm sure every young man out there is making fucking Regis Philbin facial expressions like he's on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire every time they're trying to choke the chicken, so I didn't think anything of it. But after a while I started to think, this really can't be normal. I don't want to live in a world where there's a bunch of people doing these stupid rituals that I'm doing. So I googled it and narrowed it down to 2 possible ailments, the first being obsessive compulsive disorder, and the second a faulty wireless router. I thought I could confidently scratch off the latter, so I was left with OCD. Then I had this debate with myself if I should go see a professional about it, a therapist, because I was almost 100% sure it was OCD. All the pieces just fell into place like a jigsaw puzzle of anus.
But then I thought, they're probably going to prescribe me medication. And I didn't have a lot of faith in the medication a therapist would have prescribed me because I thought, one, the medication would either perpetuate the illness further and I would have to keep going back to them to get more drugs that would cost my family a lot of money and it wouldn't even solve the problem, and I definitely didn't want to do that. Or two, it would make it worse because I had read that shit sometimes makes it worse. And I definitely didn't want to take that chance. I don't even know how it could have gotten worse. I guess I would have just had to follow like a specific set of steps every single day and never deviate from these specific walking patterns. I have no idea how it could have fucking gotten worse, but I didn't want to take either of those chances. So I thought it would be best for everyone if I just tried to figure it out by myself. Now, I was really good at hiding it. None of my friends knew I had OCD. No one knew I had OCD outside of my family, and even my family really didn't know the extent of it. They only knew some very small bits and pieces of it. And I feel like a lot of people with OCD are really good at hiding it, so you would never know if somebody actually has it. And that means that they don't ask for help, and I didn't either. But looking back on it, it really probably would have been beneficial if I involved some people in helping me get over this. But I didn't, and I eventually did figure out a plan that got it under control and pretty much got rid of it. So I looked at it in a big scale. I knew I was in control of my actions. I knew I was the one doing these rituals. I was making this conscious decision to do these things, and I was in control of that, nobody else. So I knew I couldn't just break these rituals, get rid of them all at once. I had to go in small steps in order to do this. So I started to break them down into smaller rituals. I started to break them down piece by piece, making them just a tiny bit shorter than they were, or eliminating some very tiny things. And the first one I really targeted was one I had with eating. I had to eat a meal at an exact time every day. I had to eat each meal at an exact time, and you started to make bargains with myself. I would eat this meal a little bit sooner or this meal a little bit later, and that was the first thing I really went after because that was something very small that I could control every time. So I started to change the meal times up, and once I started to get those more flexible, I was eating meals 30 minutes sooner or whenever I felt like, then I started to go for the bigger ones and make those a little bit shorter. Instead of sleeping in a specific position on my bed, I would move over a little bit, or I would do this, or I would do that, stuff like that. The National Treasure one I had already gotten over because the DVD actually did break, thankfully. So after 2 years of being hostage to Nicolas Cage's acting in that movie, despite it being a pretty decent movie, I was finally free of that one. So that was before really I knew I had OCD. But with the sleeping habits, I managed to just convince myself to sleep in different positions, different sides of the bed. And I just started making these little changes to my rituals, and eventually I made the changes bigger and bigger and bigger until eventually I could convince myself to just not do the ritual at all. The ritual is so short and consisted of so little things. What's the point in even doing the ritual? And I was able to do that. I was able to just not do the rituals, and now I don't do any of it anymore. Now, there are still a few remnants of my OCD that I just cannot seem to get rid of. For instance, my YouTube profile picture has been the same negative 50p image for the last 7 years, and I just cannot, no matter what, convince myself to change it because I feel it would just cause such a discomfort to me. And a few other little things that are still reminding me of OCD are still there because of OCD. But for the most part, it is completely gone. I don't struggle with it anymore. I'm not miserable because of it anymore, or miserable in general. And I know how hard it is to ask for help, especially if you have embarrassing rituals, but it's really, that's the best piece of advice I can offer you, is to ask somebody for help in breaking the rituals. For instance, I would have loved if I asked somebody to make sure I don't do this specific component of a ritual or something like that and make sure I stick to it. That would have definitely made it easier, and I probably would have gotten over it a lot sooner. Overall, I just hope me talking about the subject and sharing my experience with OCD and how I got over it helps somebody out there come up with a plan, or inspires them to ask somebody for help in getting past it and getting rid of it or keeping it under control or something along those lines. So hopefully this helps somebody out there. And yeah, that's it. See ya. Today I wanted to tell a story I recently told on stream about the time I got scammed for all of the money I had at the time. I must have been 18, maybe 19. I was definitely still a virgin when this happened. Not that that's pertinent to the story, but just a little bit of lore there, a little side note. And my friend Andrew had come to visit me so we could party at my university. But unfortunately, when he came up, there were no parties, and if there were, we certainly weren't invited. The lacrosse bros did not want the gamer nerds coming in, so I've got my buddy Andrew over, and he's just eating fucking Reese's cups as we're doing nothing except playing like Tekken Tag Tournament 2, and then eventually we decided to find something else to do, and we found a carnival.
that had rolled into town. It was like one of those pop-up shop carnivals where they transport everything in on like a dilapidated school bus. So they scooted in and they set up shop nearby and were like, well, fuck it, we're not doing anything else. Let's go to this carnival. And I swear to God, when we got there, it looked like something out of Courage the Cowardly Dog. This place looked haunted. And we were basically like the only customers there. There was like a few children, or at least the spirits of children that were there, like hanging out, and they were riding the only ride at this carnival, which was one of those spinning rides that it was like this giant, horrifying metal contraption that just looked like a medieval torture device. It looked like a fucking transformer that had gotten hit with a stick of dynamite. It looked so rusted and gross. I have no doubt that was just a tetanus disaster waiting to happen. I don't even know if those kids are even alive anymore if they rode that fucking thing. But that's about all they had. They had that one ride and then a ton of shady carnival games. Not like the fun, goofy ones that you can actually win, you know, like the basketball one or shooting water into a target. They had only the rigged ones that you can't win under any circumstances. So this was less of a carnival that came in and more of just like a rolling scam that travels. But of course, I'm 18, 19 years old at the time. I'm a virgin, so all I'm really thinking about is titties and how I'm not seeing them. So, you know, I kind of disregard that, and I'm going around with Andrew, and we're playing a few of the games. Of course, we're not winning anything, not even like those tiny stuffed animals. We're getting nothing. The closest thing we're getting to a prize is stepping on a used condom in the parking lot. Like, there's just really nothing that we're accomplishing. We're just wasting money and wasting time. To reiterate the location, it was literally in a parking lot in between two condemned buildings. That was the location. This fucking barren wasteland looked like something out of the Fallout universe. It would have been less gross to just wander through catacombs, because at least then we wouldn't have been losing money doing it. But I came to this with like $200 in my wallet or something like that, and we were playing through these games, not winning, and I'd gone down like 50 or 60 bucks. I don't remember exactly what, but it was a lot. Like we were spending a lot of time just indulging in this filthy sin. Now, before I get to like the actual meat here of when I lost all my money and how this all happened, I want to drive home a point. I'm not exactly like a super gullible person, I don't think. I like to imagine like I'm a grizzly, chiseled man with hair on my sack, because as an avid RuneScape player, I know how to recognize a scam. I started playing RuneScape in 2005, and I got used like a fleshlight on that game. I was falling for a lot of scams. I once gave my fucking password away to a guy who said that he didn't think my password was cool. So to prove him wrong, I just gave him my password in order to impress him. And then I lost my account to him. Like, I was scammed a lot. And it was an invaluable lesson it taught me. When someone's trying to take advantage of me, how to recognize a scammer, and just like all of these red flags that should go off in people's heads when they're faced with a scam. I think every child should be scammed at some point. Teach them a valuable lesson. They don't need to lose their house or anything, or like get wrapped up with a crypto gambling scam or whatever, but maybe just like a small scale scam for candy. Teach them a little something. That I always believed that the lessons I learned in RuneScape through getting scammed would be very helpful, and so far they have been, but on that day, nothing could have prepared me for the scam that I was going to encounter at that godforsaken carnival. The game was the toss a ball off a backboard, make it land in a bucket, and you win one of the jumbo prizes, like the fucking wumbo-sized unicorns and bears and shit. So for those that don't know, the game is a wooden backboard, it's a big circle, and it's at an angle, it's slanted this way. Underneath it is a basket that's poking out just enough for a ball to bounce off the backboard and fall in the basket. And you only have to do it one time and you win the biggest prize. So this carnival's not very big, obviously. Andrew and I had passed this a few times and it wasn't like there was some heavenly glow on it like, this is the game for me, this is the one I want to play. But as we passed it for like the third or fourth time, the dude finally calls over. He's like, you guys are just wandering around, come over here, let's just like talk and hang out. And we weren't doing anything, so we'll come flirt with this guy, whatever. And he's just so charismatic. We're just talking, shooting the shit. I think he brought up sports, and at the time I was like a sports fan, so we talked a little bit. And then he just started talking about his game. He's like, if you guys want to play, you can just like play this game. It's $5 for 3 throws, might as well, and we'll just keep talking. I was like, that's a good deal, $5, 3 throws, and it looks really easy. And he's like, well, I don't want you to think that this is like rigged or anything. I want to show you that this can be done because, he must have seen us losing. So he demonstrated that it could be done. So he walks up. He's like a little off to the side of where I'm standing, where I have to stand to shoot.
and he bounces it off the backboard first try right in the bucket. He's like, yeah, I can do this all day. Picks up the ball, does it again, picks up the ball, does it again. He does it like 3 times in a row, and it's like, okay, this game looks really easy. So then he hands me the balls. It's an absolute disaster. I'm sticking my dick in my own ass. I can't get a single ball even close to the bucket, no matter how lightly I throw it or where I'm hitting the backboard. For some reason, it's like it's being shot out of a cannon once it hits that backboard. And it's not making any sense to me because I'm doing like the exact same thing he is. I'm putting a little spin on it. It's just not getting the job done. Nothing's working. And then he hits me with this proposition. For $10, I'll give you 10 throws, and I'll give you your money back from this round and the previous round, and still give you the big prize. I was like, what in tarnation? This is the nicest guy on earth. What a great deal. 10 throws, $10, and I get all of my money back plus the big prize? What am I waiting for? I'm fucking losing money not playing right now. How am I going to say no to this? That right there is a huge red flag. I didn't know this until well after the fact, but this is a well-known carnival scam. When they start saying you could win your money back, they're doing that because they know you can't. The game is rigged. He shows me again, he's like, hey, let me just make sure you know that you can do this. Just do it just like this. So then he just makes it 5 more times right in front of me. Like, he just shows that it is very easily achievable. Hands me the balls. I go through all 10 balls. Nothing even close. Like, sometimes you can get it to bounce off the backboard and hit the basket inside, but the ball's so light that it bounces right out, like, every single time. So now I'm $15 in the shitter and I'm feeling really bad. Andrew's trying to be like the guardian angel on my shoulder, like, Charlie, let's just go ahead and leave. You're not going to make this. It's clearly too difficult and there's some trick to it you don't know. And I took that as a challenge. I'm like, excuse me, motherfucker, what did you say to me? You say I can't do this? Sign me up for another round. Let's ride. And it's the same deal. He doubled the price again. So $20 for 10 balls, but I can win my money back. So for $20, I can win my $15 back, and then I'm back where I started and everything's good, and I get the big prize. So, again, I go through all 10 balls, nothing. Nothing at all. Now, this is a lot of money. Again, this was $200. That's everything I had in my wallet. That's everything I had at the time for spendable cash. So, this is a lot of money that I am juggling around here. We didn't go to the carnival with the intent to spend a lot, but just getting wrapped up in boredom and just, like, the will to not keep being a loser at the carnival just kept me spending. So, after the $20, I'm like, Jesus Christ, what is going on? You know, it's definitely a me problem. I've seen this fucking guy do it, 10 times now. Now, let me paint a picture of the guy for you, because it's not like he was some kind of athlete where it's like, oh, this guy, he probably plays in the NBA, he's just got real talent. No, this guy had a body like a bag of hot dogs. Like, he is not some guru of backboard bouncing or anything. So, clearly, if he can do it, I should also be able to do it. Anyone should be able to do it. So he demonstrates it's possible again. He's like, bro, look, I really hate to see you lose this much money. I'm not going to double the price this time. Look, just give me another $20. I'll give you 10 more throws and you can win all your money back and I'll still give you the prize. I'm like, thank you for being such a nice guy. Damn near wanted to lean over and pat him on the ass. I was like, man, this guy, what a saint. So I give him another $20 and I do my 10 throws, and you know how the story goes. It doesn't go in. None of them go in. They're not even close. So at this point now, what am I, $55, $60 down almost? And it's been like half an hour of just this. Andrew's sitting there watching this whole train wreck happen. And it's not getting any better. The guy's gone from charming to full-blown scam mode. He like completely drops the facade of being nice. After like the second time I did $20 for 10 throws, he's like, yep, you want to do 20 more? You can win your money back. You probably want that money back. So he starts guilting me into it, and I'm like, he's right. I need that money back. So I give him another $20. I go through the balls. It's not even close. I lose again, and I'm sweating. I am sweating so fucking hard. Andrew is begging me not to keep playing the game, but I'm seeing red now, and I can't stop. I have to. So I do 20 again for another 10 throws to try and win my money back. I don't do it. I fail again. This fucking, like, this guy is still just prodding, still trying to squeeze every cent out of me. I'm just this dude's little dirty cum rag that he's wringing out and getting some money from. So we continue for another, like, 15, 20 minutes or however long it was. It felt like an eternity, and I'm down to my last $20 in my wallet. And, I'm praying, fucking give that $20 a kiss, and I spend it. I rolled the dice, I went for it one more time, and I don't win. I'm now completely out of money. I tell him that, and I start to just ask if he could just give me some of it back. I'm desperate. I wanted some of it back. I needed some of it back. And he's like, bro, I just can't do that. My boss would be really mad at me if I let that happen. But look, There's an ATM over, like, it was like a couple blocks away. He told me the location. He's like, just go to the ATM, get some more money, come back, and I will absolutely show you the perfect tricks. You're just not getting the technique right, and I'll show you what you're doing wrong. So this piece of shit tried to get me to go to an ATM to get more money out to keep playing his game, which was rigged. There was no way to win from the start. I'm shocked he didn't try and get me to sign some kind of contract with blood, this fucking demon. And I strongly considered it. I did, because that's a lot of money. It was like $140 that I spent on that game. $200 in total at that fucking carnival, but on that game in particular, there was $140 right in the goddamn toilet, right into that stinky dumpster. And I needed that back. Like, I really wanted that back. But Andrew talked me out of actually going to get more money from the ATM, like from savings or something. And I didn't go back. I ate the loss. That to date is one of like the most shameful moments slash scams of my life. Now, it wasn't until way after the fact, in fact, even on stream is where I learned how he was actually able to do it. I thought that I remembered on one of those shows that bust carnival games that are rigged. I thought the reason he was able to make it and I wasn't was the angle he was able to throw from. He was able to throw much closer than I was. In this game, there is a line that you have to throw behind. There is like a little barrier that you have to throw from behind that in order to participate. And I thought that was the key. He was closer than I was, and that's how he was able to ricochet it off every time into the basket. But it's actually deeper than that. That does play a role, but he actually used a heavier ball. He didn't use the exact same balls that he gave me. His ball was weighted more, so when it bounced off the backboard, it didn't fly as far. So he was able to get it off the backboard into the basket and have it stay in the basket. And that's why mine couldn't do it. It was something I never noticed at the time, that he wasn't using the same balls he was giving me. He had a heavier one, or a heavier set to use. So even if I went and somehow found $1,000 to put into that game that night, I would have never had a chance of winning my money back, despite this guy showing me how it was done and promising me that if I just made one single ball in that bucket, I'd get all my money back and all the problems would be solved. I still absolutely despise that guy. I hold a grudge on that shit. It takes a lot to scam someone right to their face, especially like an 18-year-old college student who is telling you how much the money means to him, and for you to knowingly keep misleading them and make them believe they can win it back and that you're a good guy. Like, you're a giant piece of shit. Besides the obvious lesson I learned from this experience, I also learned how to fuck them in the ass. The games that aren't rigged, I mastered. I decided I want to win all their big prizes because fuck them. I'm able to win their biggest prizes on my first try, and I just give those prizes away to people at the carnival so I never feel scammed again. It's definitely petty, but it's a little bit of revenge for what the carnival took from me on that night. So I posted this video a few years ago, and it's showing me winning like the basketball game and the beer bottle game for the giant prizes. Both of these games are also rigged in favor of the carnival, but I was able to master the way of doing them. So the basketball game, the rim is an oval instead of a circle, so you have to have an absolutely perfect high arcing shot in order for it to make it. And for the beer bottle game, you have to lean at the right time and the right like distance lean, and you can stand it up every time. So I master these games, I get the big prizes, and I give that shit away. Just that way they lose a little bit of money on those prizes, a little bit of pettiness from Charlie. I'm like the fucking Batman of carnivals. So yeah, anyway, I just wanted to share this story. Maybe it'll be like educational for someone out there, but at the end of the day, I just thought it was a fun story. I'm over it now. I still don't like the guy who did that to me, but yeah, I just thought it was worth sharing. That's about it. See ya. I'm often asked to tell stories about my days from college since I've told so many, mainly around how I was a fucking weirdo for like the first year and a half pretending to be a mysterious anime character and shit like that. But today I wanted to mix it up and hit you with a story from the academic side of my college experience. Now, I was a digital arts major for the first 2 years I was in college, and then I switched to human sciences and exercise physiology for my concentration. And the reason for that is because I just truly wasn't talented in the art field at all. And I knew that going into it. I wasn't disillusioned thinking I was actually talented at art, like some kind of sommelier with the crayons or anything. I'd always sucked asshole when it came to art. But I thought it'd be fun to at least try to do like some cartoon shit and animation in college because I'd always liked it. But it wasn't fun and I wasn't good at it. Half of my like actual physical art projects ended up looking like something Jackson Pollock would have made while overdosing on ketamine. My 3D animation shit was absolutely fucking terrible. That looked like a video game glitch. Like, it was all really fucking terrible. Now, unfortunately, I don't have any of the 3D models I worked on back then anymore. I just don't have the files. But luckily, my mother kept all of the actual physical art pieces that I've made. And honestly, it should be a crime that she even kept them. They're so fucking bad. But I'd like to take you on a tour through them. So, as you can probably guess, this is me. The resemblance is uncanny. This was my first self-portrait I did in the figure drawing course, and you can see just with each stroke of the pencil that I was able to just really capture a different, beautiful aspect of my figure here. I mean, it's like looking in a mirror, honestly. I bet you're asking yourself right now, Charlie, did you get an F for cheating? Because you probably just took a picture of yourself and submitted it. It looks so good. And I gotta tell you, this was hand-drawn, if you can believe that. And trust me, that's just the tip of the iceberg. I only got better from there. Here's... I'm sure you can immediately tell who this is. It goes without saying, I don't even need to tell you who this is. This is my dad, as I'm sure you immediately guessed upon seeing it. You're like, oh, that's Charlie's dad. That's Mr. White. The pose I was able to really nail here. This was he was he was sitting in his chair, and I I decided to capture the moment because I was like, wow, that's powerful, Dad. You're looking real profound right now, real sophisticated. Stay right there and let me draw you. Let me sketch you out. And this is how it came out. And he's like, wow, Charlie, why are we even sending you to college? You've already mastered the art. Wow. That's a good drawing right there. That'll go up on my Deviant Art if anyone needs any commissioned portraits. I'll indulge for the right price. And then of course we only keep going up from there. This one is the back of a skeleton, I guess. I think that's all that is. But that looks pretty good. You know, all things considered, a massive leap up from the other two, if I do say so myself. You can see the improvement. You can see me really starting. You can see me really starting to nail the vicissitudes of each different piece that I was capturing. And then here's me as a Pokemon trainer. There's me just. Yeah, tossing ye old Pokeball, catching a Hitmonlee or a Scyther, you know, any Pokemon Charlie likes. Buzzwole, perhaps. Yeah, so, you know, we're getting real good here. The hands look a little fucked up, kind of like some claymation type shit. But other than that, I mean, that's about as good as she gets right there. That's pretty solid stuff. And then, of course, you can't just have, you know, pencil, pen, and charcoal. You also have to have some painting, which I mastered. And I knew going into it I was going to be good at the painting. So here's the world, and there's another planet up there. So this looks pretty good if it was hung in a fourth grader's classroom. Pretty proud of this one, if I do say so myself. Looking back on it, it looks like there was room for improvement, but hey, you can't fault where my heart was here. This is something that would definitely be hung on the fridge to celebrate their 6-year-old's first painting. So, I mean, I don't remember what grade I got on it, but anything less than an A would be criminal. Wow. We still got more, though. Don't worry. I can keep showing you some of these. I actually, unironically, did get kind of good towards the end of my figure drawing course. So, you're going to accuse me of plagiarism. I already know it. You're going to accuse me of stealing this from another student, but I assure you, I did actually draw this next piece. This was me looking at like an assortment of different things that the professor put on a table. And actually looks pretty fucking good. So I really did start to get the hang of it towards the end of the course, and then immediately switched majors, so I never touched it again or got any better. So this is like peak Charlie art. Like, this piece actually looks kind of fucking good. So actually happy with that one. And then I also did another decent one too. I believe this was the last piece before the end of that semester. And it was another like weird goofy like crime scene that she set up, where it was like a head in a bowl on like a tablecloth thing. I really got the tablecloth nicely. Like, that tablecloth is looking beautiful. So I started to really nail this medium here. I think this is charcoal, right? So I really started to get the hang of that. And yeah, so that came out nice. But that's really peak of Charlie's art. Coming back down, we had some more stinky ones, unfortunately. Not super great here. I don't exactly know what this is, but I made it. I guess this is like some kind of cosmic supernova happening up here, and I think that's me with Pokeballs for eyes and Tetris blocks for eyebrows, and Pac-Man for ears. I think these are Yu-Gi-Oh card backs, so I mean it meant something at the time, and I'm sure someone can derive some meaning from it. I don't remember what it was, but I'm sure at the time it was a real thought-provoking piece. And of course I have this, which I think is just different kinds of corn. Maybe leaves, I'm not really sure. It's either corn or leaves. Either way, it's still, pretty cool, I guess. I mean, it's art, so, sometimes it just takes a little digging deeper to find the meaning. Then there's this. Again, it's at some point in time I was able to explain why I made this, but that was many moons ago now, many years, so I don't know what it means anymore, but I'm sure someone out there just lost their mind over how good it looks. And then I got some of these. Another confusing piece from the artistic stylings of Charles. It's like a Rorschach painting, kind of, where you're supposed to like find what you see in it to explain your emotions. So, I mean, these are all pretty good. Looking back on these, I was definitely better than I remembered, honestly. Like, I was actually kind of a prodigy. I have another one of these. Still, again, I don't know what it means. It's like in Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, where Edward goes into that, like, zone with that like, faceless thing. But again, I just wanted to show you, I was a pretty talented art student, all things considered, before I switched my majors. I bet the university still beats themselves up about it, letting me switch majors. They should have told me to stick with it. I could have been one of the biggest artists in the world. But, that's the way the cookie crumbles, I suppose. Yeah, I just wanted to show you some of my art pieces. I have a couple more stories from those art class days that I'll share in the future, but I thought this would be a fun one to start it with. So yeah, that's about it. See ya.
I was an extra in the Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1. I know, no autographs. I'm just a normal person like all of you. I put my pants on one nipple at a time and wipe my ass crack after a hard shit with both hands. But I figured I'd go into detail about this. I've talked about it on the official podcast a little bit, but I've never really dove into what it meant to be the world's most spit-on extra. When it comes to being a useless extra in a movie, I'm the cream of the crop. I'm the cream supreme. Does that mean that I'm the best actor in the entire world of acting? I like to think so, but on paper, no, absolutely fucking not. So this story starts like every other good story, every other fairy tale. I had just drained my nuts at a hard jerk-off session, and that's not a joke because I genuinely did jerk off. And in that like brief 5 or 10 minutes of just pure euphoria where you feel like you know everything in the universe, like you see the strings that hold it all together, I decided, you know what? I want to pursue some acting. So like every 21st century man, I turned to Google and I was looking up open casting calls and found one for Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1. It was in Atlanta, and they wanted headshots and full body shots shirtless. I didn't really know how to do this because I didn't have either of those, and I didn't really want to ask my friends because Tinder wasn't exactly around at that time, so I couldn't just play it off as, hey bro, I'm just trying to slay some punani out here, take these cool shirtless pics of me, let me flex real hard real quick. So I didn't want to ask my friends for anything like that, so I thought it'd be significantly less weird to ask my dad to do it. So my dad was snapping some cool shirtless pictures of me, like every good father and son relationship. But what I didn't think of at the time is my dad's 6'5". He's tall as shit, and I'm 5'6". I'm short as shit. And he was taking them at regular eye level, so he was looking down on me, which made me look even shorter than I am. So I looked like a fucking action figure in these photographs. They ended up choosing me to play an extra, and when I went to the fitting, they had a hard time actually getting me anything because they had already banked on me being 4'1". So that was kind of nice and flattering when they're like, wow, you're taller in person, because that's something I've never heard in my entire fucking life. Usually it's, wow, yikes. But anyway, we do eventually find some clothes that fit me, luckily, as if that was a Herculean task. You could have just gone to Toys R Us and found some shit for me. But anyway, we move on from there. We go to the filming. It was about a week after the fitting. And the scene took place in this podunk shithole rust-filled factory that they were using for this location. I guess they had just nicely asked all the homeless people that lived there to leave and kindly asked the heroin addicts not to come back for the course of the next week. So anyway, the scene I'm in, Katniss goes to this factory. It's District 8. It's supposed to be a hospital where she's looking over shit. I'm going to play a clip from and some goofy goober who had no clue what he was doing but was supposed to be caring for a burn victim. They gave me a slight line to read. I guess it wasn't supposed to be like a SAG type line, SAG being Screen Actors Guild, where you need 3 lines to automatically enter it, so it doesn't really count, unfortunately, and it never would have even if it did make the fucking final cut, which it didn't. I will never forgive them. Boycott Hunger Games because they took out my part. But anyway, my line was somewhere along the lines of, this girl needs help, she's burned, yikes, oh shit, it's a burn, I don't know what I'm doing, I am not a doctor, it's a burn, help, basically just crying for help. That didn't make the final cut, and neither did a lot of other people's lines. There's an elderly man next to me that had a line. You can actually see him in the final cut here. But anyway, I was on a mission to solidify a spot in the final cut of this movie, so I was doing everything necessary, no holds barred. If I had to start rimming people, I'd start rimming them. If I had to start flipping tables and wet willying bitches, I was gonna do it. I was getting into this fucking movie's final cut, no matter what. So what I would do is I would chase around the action in my designated area. So the elderly man that had lines, I would keep scooting closer to him in between takes, that way I'd be there. They didn't use his line, so that slapped me right in my fucking face, unfortunately. I also really goofed around probably too hard. I would be like screaming kind of loud because they're like, be chaotic, be wild. And I was just like, fuck, oh shit, fuck, sometimes. And obviously that didn't make the final cut. I thought there'd be a slim chance of that though, maybe in the background like an Easter egg. But I didn't put too much real estate in that. I didn't expect that to make it. But what I did attempt and really thought would make it to the final cut is when this kid right here, the kid who says, are you here to fight, are you going to fight with this Katniss? I was originally positioned where this one girl's head is poking out. That was supposed to be me. But my plan was, I knew this kid was going to be in the movie no matter what because he's an actual actor. They paid him to do these lines. So my plan was to sit up as straight as possible, as erect as I've ever been in my life. The world's most perfect posture. So that way my head would be at like his titty level. So every time they'd have his lines going, you would see me. You'd have to see me. Unless they were going to fucking pixelate me like a UFO documentary, you were going to see me. But what they ended up doing is they told me to switch with the person they ended up putting there, which is this person that's poking their head out, all very cautiously, just trying to avoid it. I was trying to get in it. They're trying to stay out of it. They changed me because I was blocking their shot. I was too intrusive. So they ended up putting me a little more ahead. That's not to say I didn't make the final cut, though. It was, at the end of the day, a mission successful. If you pause the movie right here, you can see my arm doing the, is it the, I don't remember, one of these or whatever the fuck the symbol is for Hunger Games. But yeah, you can see me poking it out there. And yeah, that's was my extra role in the Hunger Games Mockingjay, and I probably ruined a little bit of that scene. Not by design, but I was out for number one. I was going to be the world's most impressive extra on this movie. Unfortunately, they outsmarted me. But I do honestly kind of feel like maybe I did ruin a couple of the scenes that were supposed to be in there, because like I said, there was a lot more lines, but I'd keep fucking scooting closer to them, and I guess they probably didn't like me being in every single line, which honestly I can totally understand, and that's not something that crossed my mind. I never thought that I would maybe potentially ruin someone else's line by just being there, but I can totally see how that could have happened. So if you did have a line in this movie that didn't make it and you suspect it's because I kept photobombing the shit out of it, that's on me, and I'm sorry about that. But I mean, hey, it's Hollywood, you know? It's a dog-eat-ass world out there. I was just gunning for it, and it did not pan out the way I was hoping it would. But anyway, at least you can see my arm in there. That's it. See ya. It's been a little while since the last time I sat you down at the fireplace with my bathrobe slightly ajar to tell you an embarrassing story from the period in my life where I've LARPed as a fucking mysterious anime character. This was around the time I was like 18, 19 years old, so like freshman, early sophomore year of college. And I've told many a pathetic story from this sad compendium of miserable social ineptitude. And there's one I haven't shared with you that I thought I'd share today. This was actually the first date I ever went on, like first official date. I'll just give you a brief lore update for those that haven't seen any of the other videos. Back in early college years, I thought it'd be great to reinvent myself as a mysterious anime character in real life. It worked for the anime characters. Girls were always trying to constantly like gobble on their meat. And so I thought, well, if it worked for them, it could work for me. So I wanted to be like super unique. I wanted to wear a chain with my favorite video game disc on it, Psychonauts. So just be like a fucking chain with Psychonauts on it. I also refused to talk to people. So if people talked to me or asked me questions, I'd respond with like moans and grunts instead of words. And it was really goofy shit. Like talking to me would be like talking to an NPC in Banjo-Kazooie where they just respond with that's how I would pretty much respond to shit, or just complete silence. I have no doubt a lot of people on campus probably reported me to authorities as a potential threat to the university in those early year and a half, however long I spent doing that. But I eventually grew out of it. But during this time, I actually did get a date. My first real official date. Now, while this was my first date, it wasn't like I was a completely kissless virgin. I was a virgin who had been kissed once. It was a dare. A girl was once dared to kiss me because that was seen as such a punishment that in a truth or dare game, they made it a dare to kiss me. And I was like, fuck yeah, this is my time to shine. Probably pre-came and shit my pants at the same time. But anyway, I managed to get this date because a friend of mine from high school actually invited me to a party. We hadn't seen each other in quite some time, and they invited me out to go drink with them. At the time, I was completely straight edge. I didn't want to touch drugs. I didn't want to touch beer. I also wasn't even sure I ever wanted to lose my virginity. I was starting to think it might even be best if I didn't. But they invited me to this party, and I was still in this mysterious anime phase, and he invited me to play beer pong with him, and I was like, well, as long as I don't drink. And he's like, fuck it, Charlie, I'll just drink for you. Just fucking play with me. And I was like, sure, let's go. So we were playing, and then eventually his friends called him to do like a keg stand or something, so I needed a partner, and a girl hopped in to play with me. And I didn't say a fucking word to her. And I guess that must have been cool enough because she started talking to me, and then I eventually like mumbled out like, do you want to go to the beach? And she said yes. She gave me her number, and we set up a beach date for the next day. And my God, I don't even think I slept that night. I remember that night after the party, I went back to the dorm and I was just busting out hundreds of crunches and like bicycle crunches and shit, trying to sculpt out my abs speedrun style. I didn't eat. I only drank a ton of water, just trying desperately to get my six-pack to pop out a bit more. I was a lot leaner back then because all I focused on was being like ripped, but my arms were super skinny, so I just kind of looked like an actual poorly drawn anime character physique-wise. Nowadays, I'm just actually fucking jacked, but back then I was like, all I need is abs, and girls will want to fuck me real good. So I'm in my dorm for hours just fucking doing an impromptu P90X routine till the sun comes up, and I text her, she doesn't respond, I start to panic, I texted her again, still didn't respond, I'm fucking freaking out, I'm like, oh my God, I've ruined it, I fucking blew it, holy shit, it's all over, she hates me, she probably reported me to the police because I was creepy, oh my fucking God. I text her again, I fucking triple texted her, literally the worst possible thing you could do. She finally responds just saying she was sleeping, and then I realized that that's probably about par for the course because it was like 9 a.m. I was like, it's fucking like Saturday, and I'm texting her at 9 a.m. like 1,000 times.
it stands to reason that she might just be sleeping in. Fucking having a manic episode in the text messages there at 9 a.m. and then she still agrees to meet with me. She's like, yeah, we're still down for the beach. Let's go. So we meet at my car. I play my boner jams, which was a real risk for me because the music I listened to then and the music I still listen to now isn't really popular. It's mainly like metal and shit like that. And luckily, she likes that music. In fact, she even knew some of the bands, like Cybreed. She likes Cybreed, which is still my favorite band right now. So that was cool, but I'd never done small talk or anything. So I didn't know how that was supposed to go. And I think she was picking up on that, so she took the initiative to talk to me. So she asked me, hey, did you have fun at the party last night? I said, nope. Which is a great response because, I mean, that's super cool. Like, hey, this guy is so goddamn badass. He didn't have any fun last night. But I do remember saying the only cool thing about the party was meeting you. I was like, that's kind of suave. So I hit her with that bit of smooth ass cheeks right there, to which she didn't really say anything. At least I don't remember her saying anything. Maybe she had just gotten completely sodden panties and, that's probably what happened. But she continues, standard stuff. What's your major? At the time it was digital arts. This was before I switched. Do you like digital arts? It sounds cool. What is that? And I was like, I fucking hate it. It's just making 3D animations. It sucks. So I'm just constantly doing my best to ruin any kind of positivity. That whole car ride was basically like condensed pessimism on wheels. And so she just keeps asking me these questions to which I'm giving like the worst responses to imaginable, convinced like the anime characters I've seen before that being different or being negative is cool to women, which it's definitely not. But she eventually gets to the dagger. What do you do? Like, she probably assumed I had like a job or something because she did. So she's like, well, what do you do for work? What do you do? And I was like, can't get into that. It's a secret. Which obviously piqued her interest because, like, what the fuck does that mean? Am I like a CIA spy? Am I a hitman? Assassin? Like, what the fuck is that? She's like, well, what do you mean it's a secret? It's like, I just can't get into that. I can't talk about it. So she keeps poking the sleeping bear. She's like, well, what do you mean? What do you do? Like, it's kind of weird. Like, what do you do? And eventually I'm like, I make videos on the internet. Keep in mind, this is 2013. The idea of being a YouTuber was a foreign concept back then. I'd also never told anyone about this. I never said out loud that I made videos online. I always kept that like my biggest top secret. I never ever talked about it, but in this instance, I was fucking desperate. I was pulling out all the stops. I was emptying my pockets of all the possible fucking spaghetti I could fill on the floor, vomiting anything that might help my chances of getting me laid. I would have told her I was Santa Claus if I thought it would help my chances of getting my cock wet. I was just going all out. Just this once. Just trying. So I told her I make videos on the internet, and she laughed at me, which just felt phenomenal. She thought I was just kidding because I had hyped it up so much to that grand wet fart of a reveal. She was probably just relieved more than anything because she probably thought I was a psychopath with the way I was answering, but I dropped that nugget of truth on her, and at the time, like I said, this wasn't really anything anyone talked about. Like, YouTuber wasn't a thing back then. Most of the most popular shit was like Facebook pages that people knew. And when it came to YouTubers, most people only knew like the biggest ones. The big one back then that I remember most people talking about was Epic Mealtime. And I also remember even things like I'm Schmacked were kind of big back then. But other than that, there wasn't a ton else that college students would think of when they hear of internet content creator YouTuber. So she didn't really find that all that impressive, and I've never treated it like a job or anything, but I just thought it was going to be a good answer to that question, one that she probably hadn't heard before, and she probably never did hear it before because she just straight laughed at it, which didn't make me feel like my chances were being helped. She thought that I was just making like a joke out of it because I just made it like this hyped up thing, like, no, it's a big secret. It's a fucking government secret. I'm not allowed to say it. If I say it, the government's gonna come fucking kill me. And then I just reveal like I make fucking gameplay and commentary videos on YouTube. So she giggled at that, and then she asked what the channel was, so I showed it to her when we parked. I brought up the channel, and at the time, the channel video that would autoplay was my titty simulator game, which of course was a kind of weird look, so I bring that up. At the time I had like 800,000 subscribers, which is a fucking ton, and she was impressed by the number, but the content itself I don't think she was too fond of, because it was titty simulator, with me talking about fucking honkin' milkers being dragged around by their nipple, and then some of the other related ones were other weird games like Don't Shit Your Pants and things. So she didn't really want to stay on the channel that long, but she said congratulations to me, and I was like, well, okay, it didn't really work very well now, did it? So we finally arrive at the beach. Confidence is shot. I can tell that this mysterious anime character Facade's not doing me any favors. So we end up just going to like a pretty crowded area on the beach at Clearwater and just laying down, and she played music with her earbuds in, and I just kind of laid there, you know, pretending like this was productive. Like, yeah, I'd always wanted a tan. I'll just fucking lay here with my ass cheeks hanging out, I guess. Why not? And just fucking sit there doing nothing while she's listening to music at the beach. At the end of it, I just kind of felt like I was an Uber driver who stayed a little too long. Like, she requested a ride, but then I had nothing else to do, so I also just went to the same destination. So we just kind of stayed there for like an hour, and then she's like, all right, I'm ready to head back. I'm kind of hungry. I didn't even bother asking if she wanted to get food with me, because I could already just pick up on the vibe here that it wasn't really going anywhere. So we go back, and then she hugged me, and I was like, fuck, it was all worth it. I got a hug. Let's go. Woo! So I got a hug out of it, which means I was a champion that day, but we never talked again, surprisingly. And that's how my first date went. So overall, pretty successful. Got off to a great start, really, in the whole romance world. And yeah, I just wanted to share that with you. I also think it's a pretty interesting look at how things have changed recently, because back then, YouTuber wasn't even a word in anyone's vernacular. No one had ever really like heard of that before. It wasn't really an explored concept, just kind of like this emerging hobby that some people would pick up on. But nowadays, I think it's like 60% of kids want to grow up to be like a YouTuber or internet creator, which is wild. So in less than a decade, it has completely changed. But back then, yeah, that shit was not looked at too positively. But anyway, I just wanted to share this story because I haven't done this one before, and I thought it was worth sharing. That's about it. See ya. It's been a little while since I told a story, so I figured it was about time that I sit you all down by the campfire and put some fear in your boners. I'm going to tell you a really recent story. Something that I think everyone can take a lesson away from and use it in their everyday lives. So before I really dig into the meat of this, I want to preface this by saying I have not pissed my pants in a very long time. Now that that's off the table, let's get into what the story is about. As you've probably surmised from that intro, it's about pee-peeing in the pants. It's about a time where I flirted with that devil. And this all takes place in the mythical year of 2019 AD on October 4th. It was literally 6 days ago as of recording this video. It was right before going to happy hour, and if you watch my streams at twitch.tv/moistcritical, you know that the streams are fucking bangers, and that I also pee a lot. I drink a lot of water, which means I'm constantly expelling a lot of urine from my body at jet stream-like pace. I really fucking pressure wash my toilet when I get in there to do that business, so if urinating is considered a game of chess, then I'm the goddamn grandmaster. Now, this was right before going to happy hour. I had just gotten all dressed up and spruced up, ready for action, and we needed to pick my friends up before going to the bars we were going to. But before going, I had the little inkling of a pee-pee coming on. It was still brewing, but it hadn't matured yet. So I figured there really wasn't any point to doing that. The bars weren't far, my friends weren't far. I'd just hold it till I got there and then just do my business out there in public. Just kind of to assert my dominance, like, hey, I'm not afraid to mark a urinal with my seal of approval. I'm not afraid to stamp this with my penis juice. So I just wanted to wait. I didn't see the point in going before heading over. That being said, on the journey to my friend's place, it was still very tame, very manageable, barely even noticed it. Got to my friend's place, didn't notice it. The second they got in my car, it's like they unleashed the piss demon. All of a sudden, all at once, it hit me like a fucking brick. Like a train had left the station, a bullet train, and it was hitting my bladder. There was no putting this genie back in the bottle. I was going to tinkle, it was just a matter of where. In my nice trousers, in a dirty bathroom somewhere on the way, or on the side of the road. The last two options weren't exactly options, because to get to the bar you had to go over this pretty long bridge, and there was no way I was going to be able to hold it through the duration of the bridge, so I'd be just trapped like a prisoner in its cell in the car, just urinating all over my friends. Or I'd have to hold it and literally cork my cock, and I'd probably fucking drown internally with urine pouring out of my mouth like I just swallowed a cyanide capsule of urine. It was just a nightmarish situation because I really had to go. So I informed Tiana, who was now driving, and I told my friends, look, I'm sorry to be an inconvenience, but we got to pull over somewhere to go to the bathroom because I'm going to literally ruin our happy hour and turn it into the not so happy hour by coating this entire car in piss.
So they understood, but the problem was there really wasn't anywhere to stop. There was no real gas stations on the way to the bridge, so we'd have to go out of our way to find one for me, and my friends didn't really want to do that, so they're trying to encourage me to just go piss somewhere next to a dumpster around some of the dilapidated buildings, because the area on the way to the bar looks like it's been hit by a nuclear missile, but I didn't want to take that chance because a friend of mine got put on the sex offenders registry for public urination. He got caught while peeing next to a building or on the side of a building. And I just didn't want to roll those dice at all. I bet if I had just went down to take a piss by a building, a fucking cop would have popped out of a bush in a ghillie suit and said, "Gotcha" on me. I didn't want to, risk that at all. I'd drop trow for 1 second, just unzip, and all of a sudden a police car fucking drift in sideways, just sirens blaring, and then take me down just for public urination. And then all of a sudden, bang, I'm a sex offender. I just didn't want to risk that at all. I didn't want to take that chance at all, so that was not an option for me. We were going to go out of our way to one of the gas stations that I knew of, and it wasn't that far out of the way, so it wasn't a huge inconvenience, but I still felt bad. Unfortunately, the gas stations were of no help, and also the gas stations look like something straight out of the Fallout universe as well. But the first gas station we go to, everything looks okay. There's a bathroom there, which is a plus. It's one of the bathrooms that's on the outside, so you need a key to get into it. So all confidently, while I'm like basically grabbing my cock, just trying to keep everything where it needs to be before I explode with urine, I go in there waddling in and I say to the guy, "Hey, look, I've got to use your shitter. Can I get the key to that bad boy?" And he's not all there. He sounds like he's one Xanax bar away from just total overdose and collapse. So I couldn't understand most of the words he said, but he kept mumbling about the hot dog man. I didn't know what that meant. I thought he was making like idle conversation. Maybe there was a hot dog vendor outside that he wanted me to go buy from before he gave me the key. I didn't know, so I asked him, "What are you talking about? The hot dog man? Who's a hot dog man? I love hot dogs, even though I fucking hate hot dogs. Just anything to get that fucking key." Felt like it was a mission in a video game that I needed to get that key to complete the quest. But so I'm making this small talk, and his answers make no sense to me. He's like, "No bathroom, hot dog man." So then I'm starting to connect these dots in my head. Okay, so the hot dog man, no bathroom. Hot dog man must have gone in there and wreaked havoc. He must have just fucking tore that bitch down and lit it on fire with an explosion from his ass or something. So this bathroom is decommissioned is what you're telling me, right? Bathroom is not working because of hot dog man. He just shakes his head, "No, hot dog man." I felt like I was in a goddamn horror movie, as if like the hot dog man was terrorizing this area like the fucking Slender Man. I didn't know what he was talking about with the hot dog man. All I knew was I was not getting that key from him. So I walked out all disappointed because I knew I wasn't getting the key, and it's all because of this menace, the hot dog man, who I'd never even fucking heard of in fairy tales. So I had to waddle back to the car disappointedly, and even in more of a rush, the sense of urgency was overwhelming. Felt like the entire universe was collapsing inside on me. Also, as a side, there was no hot dog vendor outside. There wasn't even the remnants of what could have been a hot dog vendor at any point in time. So I don't know who the fuck this hot dog man is. But anyway, we go up another maybe mile up the road where I know another gas station is, and it's just as decrepit as this one. And this one was like a goddamn orgy of weirdos. There was one guy who I am 100% sure was on spice, because he was just fucking fumbling around. Luckily, he had hit just enough spice so he wasn't totally nude and dragging his dick on the floor, but he was at that level of spice where he can't really stand up properly, and he has a football that he's throwing against a wall and hitting himself with in the face off the rebound. So that's the kind of place we were at looking for this bathroom, and I knew it was going to be gross, and I'm a bit of a germaphobe, but I was throwing that aside because I needed to be strong, because I didn't want to piss myself, because I hadn't pissed myself in at least a long time. I don't know, I was trying to think of like an exact time I pissed myself, but it's been a long fucking time. I have a pretty clean streak there, and I wasn't about to have that collapse on this night. So we get to this disgusting gas station, and it's another one where the bathroom's on the outside, so I need to go in to get the keys. There's a guy in there playing the lottery, and he's taking a long time scratching it off. That's fine, that's not his fault. He doesn't know that I'm about to explode behind him like an IED of urine. So I'm not mad at him at all. He was none the wiser, not his fault or anything. When he's finally done, I go up to the counter, I say, "Hey man, can I get the keys to that turbo shitter? I gotta go do some business over there." He's super cool about it, gives me the keys, and I'm on my way. The guy who's throwing the football now fixates his eyes on me, and he wants to get me involved in his game. I can tell because while he couldn't really get the words out properly, he was making motions like, "I'm gonna hit you with this spiral real quick, Tom Brady style," and I just, I'm putting my hands up like, "Please, no, thank you," politely. I've got to use the restroom. Finally get around the corner to where the bathrooms are on the side of the place. There's a man asleep on the curb in front of the bathrooms. I don't know if he was passed out or just really tired. Maybe at one point he was the gate guardian of the bathrooms, but now that he found bath salts, now he just sleeps there. I really don't know. But, I go
not over him because I was already on the side. I go around him, and then I finally put that key into the bathroom, and a sense of elation and jubilation just fills my whole body as I finally turn it, and I open it, and I'm greeted with the most unholy smell this world has ever concocted. It smelled like a fucking hate crime. It was the most repulsive, revolting smell I've ever smelled in my life, and I've smelled some shit. I've smelled some serious shit, but this was something else. This smelled like the hot dog man had gone there, killed somebody, and then took a shit all over the corpse. And it's really weird because the toilet itself was pristine. The toilet was clean enough to drink out of, eat off of. It was a fantastic looking toilet, not a speck of dirt or poopy in sight. But the bathroom itself was tainted with the remnants of 1,000 angry spirits that were all shitting in unison. It's no doubt the work of the hot dog man. There's not a single doubt in my mind. He must just be like a serial bathroom shitter. Just goes around shitting in all the bathrooms, fucking terrorizing them, ruining them for people that gotta pee like me. But I really don't know. Anyway, the smell was so overwhelming. For just a brief moment, I relaxed my penis sphincter, and a little bit of urine dripped onto my boxers. I don't count that as pissing my pants because it was just enough where it only dribbled out, and I was able to once again voluntarily collapse the muscle so it didn't squeak out anymore as I finally approached the toilet, and I finally released the sweet relief into the toilet, and I finally peed. I couldn't breathe. It was fucking hazardous to my health, no doubt, with all the shit particles floating around in the air, but god damn it, I finally peed. So the lesson to take away from here: just when you feel like even like the smallest amount of pee building inside of you, just piss. It's gonna get worse. You're gonna just need to pee. Don't try and hold it. Don't be a hero like I was, because you might find yourself in a similar situation where you dribble on yourself and you visit a really disgusting smelling bathroom that really just ruins your sense of smell for like a good 2 hours. But anyway, that's the story. The lesson to learn: pee when you feel like you have to, even a little bit. Don't try and hold it, because that is just absolutely devastating and leads to this domino effect of unfortunate circumstances and a lot of stress. That's it. So yeah.
What's up, everybody? It's Critical. There's just something I want to talk about right now, more venting than anything. So last night I was watching Les Mis with Hugh Jackman and Anne Hathaway. I mean, I wasn't watching the movie with them, but the movie has them in it, and I was watching this movie with my girlfriend. And right towards the end of the movie, I started getting extremely intense chest pains that weren't subsiding. It was debilitating. I couldn't look down. Moving certain ways made it worse. And I decided I needed to go to the hospital. I thought I was having a heart attack. I was thinking Les Mis was so fucking bad that it actually gave me a heart attack. So I went to the hospital and I got there around 11 o'clock, a little after 11 o'clock, and it was just absolute dog anus there. Absolutely horrendous. It was impossible to get seen. I would have had better luck meeting Robert De Niro in person and then having my dick jerked off by Jennifer Aniston. From the time of signing in and just saying why I was there, it was about an hour to getting the vitals and EKG done, and I can understand that because it's a hospital, they were busy. I can understand a little bit of a wait in that area. But I get there at 11 o'clock, a little after 11. The doctor didn't see me or any of the tests I did until 5:33 a.m. I'll go ahead and do the math for you so you don't have to. That is 6.5 hours of not being seen despite going to the emergency unit here. This is the fucking emergency unit. Luckily, I wasn't having a heart attack, but if I was having a heart attack, I would have fucking dropped dead in their waiting room, and then it would have been about 2 hours for them to clean up the body. I just don't understand how that's acceptable. They weren't even filling me in like, oh, I'm sorry, we're just so busy right now, the doctors are overloaded with a whole lot of work. They weren't communicating anything. I was just left in this fucking waiting room, developing deep vein thrombosis, waiting for this shit. I'm surprised that isn't a goddamn epidemic at Tampa General, just people dropping dead from deep vein thrombosis waiting to be seen in the emergency room. It's fucking ridiculous. Tampa General Hospital's motto should be, if you're not dead by the time you get here, the wait will kill you. It's just so fucking unbelievable how long they will make you wait without relaying any information to you at all or checking in on you or anything at all. It's the emergency room. People go there for emergencies, mostly. Some people go there just because they don't know where else to go or what to do. But for the most part, it's for people that think they are in a very serious situation and want to be seen immediately to make sure it's not urgent, and to just have them sitting in the waiting room like a virgin waiting for marriage. It's just so fucking unbelievable to me that is an acceptable thing. And that's the fucking emergency side of this hospital. I can hardly even imagine what anything else in this area would look like. Basically a fucking summer camp, because if you go there, you're not even going to be seen that day, I imagine.
This must have been them fucking rushing it. Quick, it's been 6.5 hours. We're making record time. Get him in here. It's just so fucking crazy to me. I can't even find the right words for it. Just sitting out there with this consistent chest pain for 6.5 hours thinking I'm having a heart attack. It's just scary. And it's just... fuck. It's unbelievable. Now, I've never been one to complain about wait times in any situations because I get it. I understand. Things get very hectic, chaotic at the drop of a hat, and you can't always prepare for it. But to be so severely understaffed that you have patients waiting 6+ hours in the emergency side, it's just disgusting. I wasn't the only one waiting that long. Luckily, my chest pain, they didn't think it was cardiac. They thought it was more of a musculoskeletal issue, so hopefully it's nothing serious. But for someone who does go there and it's something more serious like an appendicitis, you know, they go there, present the symptoms, and then they make them sit in the waiting room for that amount of time, fucking decomposing, and then meanwhile their fucking appendix bursts and then they're face down on your floor, your fucking blood-stained floor because they don't clean up the floor. There's a bunch of blood on the floor, so they're face down on the floor. If they're not dead from that, then they've contracted some type of blood-borne illness. Really, if you're in an extreme situation here in Tampa and you need to get seen right away, going to the Tampa General Hospital is the worst thing you can do for yourself. You might as well write a letter to Santa and ask him to help you out. You would get the same response time from Santa as you would from Tampa General Hospital. The only good thing I can say about the facility is the staff is pretty friendly. That's it, really. In total, the time at the hospital last night was about 8.5, kind of close to 9 hours, not quite 9 hours. 6.5 hours to get seen by the doctor, get 10 minutes of talking with the doctor, then he goes and checks another thing for 2 hours. The shift changes, I get another doctor who has to go do the same procedure again, comes back, and then I got released. Overall, just absolutely disgusting how poorly run that facility is. I can't understand how they can be so understaffed. And I did talk to some of the staff there asking, you know, what's going on, you know, every 3 or 4 hours, you know, I'd check in, you know, what's going on? Did the fucking doctor get blown up in an explosion back there? What's going on? Fill me in. And they told me it's just Mondays. They say they get busy on Mondays. Well, fuck, if you know you're going to be busy on Mondays, why don't you have more people on site for Mondays then? Doesn't that make a little bit of sense? It doesn't even have to be qualified doctors and nurses. Have some fucking dogs carrying notes from the doctor out to the patients in the waiting room. Anything at all to let them know that you haven't forgot about them. So I'm going to stop ranting, but overall, a horrible experience at that hospital with the waiting. I would not recommend it if you need some urgent care. However, I would recommend Tampa General Hospital if you need a place to charge your phone. They have some phone charging stations and they're pretty effective. Yeah, that's it. So yeah. Last year I made a video detailing the horrors of urethral swab and how painful they are. Today I upped the ante with a cystoscopy. Now if the urethral swab was a fingering of the urethra, the cystoscopy was a fisting, nay, an entire arm. The arm of a 7'5" basketball player with a 10-foot wingspan going down my urethra. Now, why I got the cystoscopy is because I've been having recurrent penile problems and they thought it was necessary. I also thought it was necessary. Luckily, everything turned out normal. And I just would like to talk about the experience here, the urethral swab 2.0. Since I talked about urethral swabs, I thought it was only fair that I go the whole 9 yards here and talk about the next iteration of the urethral swab, the next evolution. If the urethral swab was Windows XP, this is Windows 10. So let's go ahead and talk about it. So over the last year, I've kind of become a urethral virtuoso. I know pretty much everything about urethras, what can go in, what can't. I'm kind of a urethral sommelier, if you will, in terms of adventures in the urethra. Now this one was by far my most incredible escapade in the urethral realm so far. Now, before I begin, I know some people actually put things in their urethra for pleasure. It's called sounding. I've looked into it and I can't believe my eyes. I don't know how these creatures can exist. But that's neither here nor there. Let's go ahead and start. So, I started by lying down. They pulled out my wiener and they injected a numbing agent into it. And I felt every fucking second of it. It fucking hurt. It felt like my virginity was being injected back into me. It was like a Kamehameha wave of broken glass going through my urethra. And my poor penis ate all of it. Just drank the whole fucking thing bottoms up. The next step was the doctor came in and showed me the flexible scope. And it was intimidating to say the least. It looked like something you'd be strangled with in a Hitman game. And that was going down my urethra. It was massive. It was absolutely fucking massive. They had a nice big flat screen monitor set up, some nice home theater viewing, so that way you can get your urethral and bladder spectating pleasure in, and I was welcome to watch on the screen, which of course I did. I wasn't going to miss this opportunity to see what's going on under the hood down there. So he starts inserting the scope in there, and my cock's gobbling it up like Pac-Man chasing a high score, and I'm watching firsthand because I had front row seats and I was going to pass up on these tickets here. After it gets inserted, I turn my attention to the Jumbotron there to check it out on the screen. And man, that was surreal. That was just downright perturbing, really. It looked like the Death Stranding trailer. I half expected to see a baby in there sucking its thumb. Instead of going into the mouth of Norman Reedus, it went into the mouth of my Norman Petus. It was quite the thrill ride, but it was, a little gross too, seeing all that in there. But it was interesting, very interesting. I could feel every movement in there. When he finally got into the bladder, I could feel him moving the camera around, and it really felt like he was playing the crane game inside of me. It was like quite the wild ride. He'd be turning around, and I was like, oh, fuck, now he's playing Gran Turismo in there. And as surprising as this may be to some of you, it did not feel good at all. And the lube they were using was running down onto my nutsack, and I thought I was peeing all over everyone, and I thought I was some type of fucking middle school science project with the volcano and the vinegar, and it was just leaking all over the place. Thought I was peeing everywhere. So then I was embarrassed, but I was still watching the screen because I wasn't that embarrassed. I wanted to see everything going on in there. And then in one swift motion, he pulls it all out like he had just hooked a fish on the line, and then that was the end of that. Hurt real good. But I will say the urethral swab, 10 times worse. A lot worse. The urethral swab is still the king of pain in terms of urethra stuff, but I thought it was at least worth detailing the next step of a urethral swab. Now, there is a rigid scope for Cisco's. That's a whole new ball game. That's playing Cisco's on hard mode right there. That is, from what I understand, like trying to insert a large oak tree through a crazy straw. There's a lot worse things that can happen with the rigid scope, and it's apparently a lot worse, and it makes a lot more sense that it would hurt worse because, it's a fucking, it's a hunk of steel basically going into your urethra. At least the flexible scope was flexible. But yeah, so between the urethral swab and the urethral swab 2.0, the OG urethral swab was far more painful, but it was worth at least detailing this experience just for the sake of, keeping the urethral adventures, getting them out there, telling the urethral tales that you can tell your children before bedtime, so that way they too fear the urethral swabbing boogeyman and such, as well they should. So yeah, this was my latest escapade in the urethral adventures, and yeah, I should also mention post-op Cisco how it feels. It feels like I'm just constantly leaking lava. It burns and my undergarments are wet, so I'm definitely leaking, that's for sure, and it doesn't feel good. It feels like I've got some hot charcoal bricks down there. It's like I'm smuggling drugs for the drug cartel, except the drugs are nothing but hot fucking mulch in there. So that's how it feels now. Hopefully it'll go away soon, and yeah, that's it. So yeah.
What's up, everybody? It's Critical. Over the last 4 or 5 years, there's a question that's constantly popped up that I keep forgetting to bring up in my yearly answering questions video, so I figured I might as well make a whole video about it today. A lot of you might not remember, but about 4 or 5 years ago, I was involved in a car accident, and then a lady faked an injury and sued me for it, and it was just a really shitty period for me. And I made a video after the whole lawsuit and everything was finished and done with, but I still get asked a lot to go into more detail about what happened. So I figured, fuck it, why not? It's kind of an interesting story. So I was on my way home from my figure drawing art class, and I'm pretty shitty at art, and drawing nude models was just incredibly difficult. They'd strike the most bizarre poses like the Inquisitive Masturbator or the YMCA, and I'd do my best to doodle them, but it always came out looking like something out of a 3-year-old sketchbook. It basically just looked like you were looking at bacteria under a microscope. But regardless of my artistic ineptitude, it's irrelevant. So I was driving home from that class, and it's just an ordinary commute and bumping some boner jams, and then all of a sudden, the car in front of me slams on their brakes, and I had absolutely no time to react. So I rear-ended that car, and then that car rear-ended the car in front of them. Now, it wasn't a high-speed impact. At most, I was going 25, but I didn't have time to slam on my brakes because I was driving a little too close to them, so that was like a full 25 in the anus. And luckily, no one was hurt in the accident. But I turn off the boner jams and I go check on the passengers in both cars, and I swear I couldn't have gotten in an accident with 2 worse groups of people in those cars. The car that I rear-ended was driven by a nurse who was also the babysitter of the 2 kids in the car whom she was bringing to their families, and the kid in the front seat, the front passenger seat, had a fucking artificial sternum and set of ribs. So when she told me that, I just figured the kid wasn't gonna make it, even though I don't think he was injured. Maybe the airbag clipped him and just destroyed the poor guy. But he was fine. The kid in the back seat was on like an oxygen tank or something, or I don't know what he had back there. He had some type of Star Trek contraption that was keeping him afloat. So I just thought they were both gone for. The lady was totally fine. It turns out the kids were both fine, but I was fucking panicked once I heard all of this information and saw when I looked in the car. And then the car they rear-ended was driven by a mid-90s woman transporting her 74-year-old son to a doctor's appointment to check on the condition of his fucked up leg. And when I went up to this car to check if they were alright, I thought it was just driven by 2 statues. They didn't even react. They were confused as to why I was up there. I don't even think they knew they were in an accident until all the dust settled and then they realized their car was kind of damaged. When I saw them though, I thought it was game over. I thought there was no way they survived this. It looked like a rogue tumbleweed could take them out. Turns out they were totally fine and more so just annoyed that they were going to be late to the doctor's appointment. So luckily everyone was 100% fine. The only one who even sustained any type of injury was me, and it was from when I went to check on the car in front of me. It was covered in broken glass that I didn't see, and I just cut the shit out of my hand on it. So the police show up, the paramedics show up, they give everyone the okay, a clean bill of health. No one needs to go to the hospitals or anything, they can all just go home, everyone's fine. But unfortunately the car that I rear-ended must have been made out of fucking tissue paper because that shit just crumbled. The entire rear end of that was just in shambles. My car had absolutely no damage to it, and that's not an exaggeration. There wasn't even a scratch on my car. I guess I just rear-ended a block of styrofoam. But anyway, so everyone's fine, everyone's safe, we all go our separate ways. And then about a week later, the woman driving the car with the 2 glass children issues a lawsuit. She's suing me and my family, stating that she suffered severe neck injuries as a result of the accident, which is just bullshit, and we tried to fight it, but there really wasn't much we could do, because she went to one of the most corrupt doctors in Tampa, who was well known for performing fake surgeries on ambulance chasers. So she goes to this bogus doctor, and over the course of a year, gets a bunch of injections of Dorito dust into her, and then gets her tits polished or something. Then after about a year, she got a settlement from my insurance company for a very mediocre sum of money, and I imagine at most she probably pocketed about $5,000, so I don't know if it was really worth her time and effort, but whatever. All power to you, you fucking asshole. So yeah, that's the whole story about what happened there. Luckily everyone was alright, even the girl who faked the injury. I'm glad she was safe, although she's a big old piece of shit. So yeah, that's about it. See ya.